I can be nice.
I don't think you're not nice.
Just
We'll talk till the cows come home. But we both have positions to defend. So.
Right. All right, raise your right hand. You swear firm testimony about to give us the truth, whole truth, nothing but the truth.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, if you lean up, state, spell your name for the court reporter in the microphone.
Officer Q Green, Atlanta Police Department.
All right, this is 23 CP 217576, David Stanley, 1 count of aggravated assault. Go ahead, Ms. Patton.
Okay.
Hi, Officer Green.
Hey.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for asking. Where are you currently employed?
Atlanta Police Department, Zone 2.
Zone 2?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And how long have you been employed there?
Zone 2, not that long, maybe a month.
How long have you been employed at Atlanta Police Department?
Almost 3 years.
And were you employed at the Atlanta Police Department on or about April 10th, 2023?
Yes, ma'am.
And are you post-certified?
Yes, ma'am.
And were you post-certified at that time?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And how did you become aware of the defendant?
It was a accident with injuries, actually. I got dispatched to, actually was down the street. Lights were off, fire was already there, EMS was already there. The victims and the vehicles, they were already dispersed. So when I arrived on scene, fire actually alerted me first, saying that this guy allegedly pointed a firearm at one of the EMS employees. So I went over to speak with them. She actually ran over to me and stated that this guy wearing dark clothing, a scully, thing like some blue jeans, had pointed a firearm at her, and he was somewhere around, still in the area. So while she was trying to take care of the actual people that were hurt from the accident, I canvassed the area, looked for him. Didn't find him at first, but there was another guy, residentially challenged, that pointed him out. It was like, hey, that's him. He actually, said this and did this.
Oh, so he saw it.
Yes.
The person who you said was
Right. I think,
residentially challenged.
I don't know for sure, but I think they probably had something going on. So he kind of told on them.
What do you mean something going on? Friends? They knew each other?
Not friends,
Enemies?
frenemies.
Okay.
They probably live out there. Well, it's not probably, they do live out there together. And I think they had some back and forth about like some personal items being taken and not taken and some stuff, some little petty stuff. Either way, he told.
Okay.
And he pointed them out. And that's how I found him. So I detained him. The EMS employee, after she left Grady, she came back and positively identified him and said, that's him.
Okay.
And it's the same guy. He matched the description that she gave me.
So you said this was a Grady EMS employee.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you know her name?
McArthur.
Okay. Do you need to look at your warrant or police report to refresh your memory?
I do.
Okay. And what you're looking down at now, go ahead and let the court know what that is.
This is a booking report. I don't actually I didn't print out the actual report. I was looking at it.
Can you speak just a tad closer to the microphone? Tap that one. Is it green?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, there you go. Court reporter, you speak up just a little bit. Go ahead.
McArthur. I don't remember her first name, but I can look through some the actual report to get her first name.
Okay. And when you McArthur, when you spoke to her, was your body camera working?
Yes, ma'am.
And was that submitted for evidence?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And when you first arrived on the scene, what was her demeanor?
Irritated. I wouldn't say surprised, but definitely was scared. I don't want to say anxious, but she was scared. She was definitely just I want to say flabbergasted, but she was distraught.
Okay. And when did you make contact with the defendant in this matter?
I did.
And did you ask him about what had happened?
I did.
And what was he saying?
He said he went down there. He was down there to assist EMS with the victims in the accident. Said he was trying to help her pull them out and do this and do that. And by this and that, meaning administer aid. And the frustration came from him when the EMS employee, Miss McArthur, asked him, just to step back, she'll handle it, because he was in the way. That's when, from what she said, he replied what he said. He didn't like that. He said he had some choice words.
What were those words?
You
may not have an exact.
End quote. Hold on. Let me pull some out. Let me pull this out. Excuse me. I had to pull out my phone, but I actually had to report on this. So the choice words were you need to shut the fuck up, bitch. End quote.
Okay. And after he stated that, then what happened?
That's when she stated that he pointed a firearm, and I asked her, how did you know it was a firearm? Well, she said, well, she's very familiar with weapons. She's from the South. It was dark colored, and she's pretty sure it was a semi-automatic handgun. Positive.
That's descriptive. Were you ever able to locate a handgun?
I was not. Actually called K9 out to assist with that. They were unsuccessful. Wasn't able to find it. The guy, the alleged friend of me, stated that he may have stashed it somewhere or hid it before we actually got there, because that's a lot of time that had passed by, but we didn't find it.
Okay. And you stated that you did make contact with the defendant in this case, or the person who the frenemy and the EMS worker identified to you as the person who had pointed the gun, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Would you recognize that person?
Yes, ma'am.
Are they in the courtroom presently? And feel free to stand up.
Yes, ma'am.
Please let the court know if it's on my left or my right and describe him with an article of clothing.
He's on your left. He has, what's this, long sleeve beige. He's on your left, long sleeve beige shirt with a blue overcoat or blue over his vest. Brown skin, male, short hair, average in stature.
Okay, thank you. Please let the court record reflect that the witness has identified the defendant in this case, Mr. Stanley.
All right, the record will so reflect.
Okay, so you stated you were called out to a collision that occurred. Where did that occur?
It occurred at an intersection where the lights were off because they had hit the power boxes at Rawson Street and Pryor Street.
Is that in Fulton County?
It is.
Pryor Street, like the street we're on?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
It's literally down the street.
All righty. And you said accident, you mean a car collision?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. When you met with Miss McArthur, did she have any injuries?
She did not.
Okay. Did anybody else witness Mr. Stanley point a firearm at Miss McArthur?
Her coworker did. I don't remember her name, unfortunately. I didn't get her information. And also Fire on scene did as well.
Did you speak to any of them?
I did. Fire was, like I stated previously, Fire actually told me first because I met with them first and then I met with the defendant.
Okay, and they indicated to you
that Mr. Stanley had allegedly pointed a firearm at Miss McArthur, and first name is Lauren.
Okay.
Lauren McArthur.
Did he ever shoot the gun?
No, ma'am.
Okay. You've charged Mr. Stanley with aggravated assault. What was your probable cause basis for that charge?
The witness and her Positively identifying him and not just her, but also fire. And not just one other personnel from fire. I think it was like 3 or 4 of them out there. All of them said the same thing. The defendant said the same thing. The man that's not associated with fire or EMS said the same thing. The frenemy guy. He did have another, I guess, instrument on him that he alleged that he actually pointed, but it wasn't a firearm. It's like a machete or something. I'm pretty sure I put that in evidence as well.
The defendant stated that he had pointed another object at the victim.
That's what he alleged instead
Okay.
of the actual firearm.
So he stated he had pointed a machete.
It was some type blunt object. It was like some handmade with like some duct tape or something on there.
Did it have a sharp end to it?
Not really.
Okay.
Kind of just blunt.
Did you ever ask Mr. Stanley why he pointed a firearm at Miss McCarter?
I did.
What was his response?
Like I stated in my report, he was trying to assist with administering aid, and he was upset when she didn't need his help, or he felt like they didn't need his help.
What was Mr. Stanley's demeanor when you spoke to him?
It was pretty calm. He wasn't too angry or upset at me. He was pretty calm.
Is there anything else you learned during your investigation that we have not covered here today?
No, nothing I can think of right now.
Forgive me for asking again, but I truly can't remember. Are you post-certified?
Yes, ma'am.
Were you post-certified at that time?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Nothing further.
All right, Cross.
Good afternoon, Officer Green.
Hello,
Could you say your first name for the record? I think I missed it.
Quinn.
Okay. Is that just spelled Quinn?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. You reported that this was a car accident with injuries. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and Mr. Stanley was not alleged to have been a driver or a passenger in either of the vehicles. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, he was somebody nearby that just came to the scene.
Yeah, where he was allegedly, it was literally not even a block right up the street within eyes view. So it could be possible that he heard it. I'm not sure, but he was just a bystander.
Okay, and he reported to you that he came to render aid. Is that correct?
That's what he said.
Okay. Did he tell you anything about his background or why he came to render aid?
If I remember correctly, I think did he say he was like military or past military or something like that? I don't remember exactly, but I do remember him stating he had some type of background that could assist with administering aid.
Okay. And to your knowledge, was he the first one on the scene?
That I'm unsure of.
Okay. At the time that you arrived, though, fire and EMS were there.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. About how many people were there, including the car accident victims?
So you had 2 white females in one vehicle, had 1 black male in one. You had 2 to 3 EMS. You had 3 to 4 fire. So what is that? Approximately 10 people.
Okay, so a fair amount of people.
Mhm.
Is that including Mr. Stanley and the other man that he was with?
Make it 12.
Okay, so about 12 people. Did you speak to all of those people?
I didn't speak with all of fire. I spoke with 2 of them. I spoke with both EMS workers. I didn't speak with the 2 females, and I didn't speak with, I spoke with them as far as the car accident, but not about Mr. Stanley. And I spoke with the black male about the car accident, but not concerning Mr. Stanley.
Okay. At the time that the alleged incident occurred, Do you know how far apart the EMS partner was, like where she was in proximity to the incident?
I do not.
Okay, what about fire? Do you know where they were in proximity to when this happened?
I do not.
Okay.
Because all this happened previously before I even got there.
Okay. Did you ask them how close they were to the scene?
As far as what do you mean how close they were to the scene?
Well, you stated that they were witnesses to the event. I didn't know if they were 10 feet away, if they were rendering aid at the time it happened and turned the other direction, or they heard about it and they were present. I'm trying to see if,
Oh, okay. So I don't have specifics as far as where exactly they were when they were witnesses, whether they were up the street, which I highly doubt, but I can't prove that. Typically, because there are traffic cameras there, I would run the cameras back and view it, but power was out. So visibility is low, unfortunately. And I was not able to actually view visually what happened.
okay. And there are no cameras with the EMS had or fire had or their cars or anything.
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. As far as identifying the alleged weapon, was Miss McArthur the only one who identified or described the weapon in any form or
She was,
fashion?
yes, Miss Lauren McArthur. She was the only one to describe the weapon in detail. Because I
Okay.
did ask her that, because my concern was that it was dark, that visibility was low. So how do you know that it was a firearm?
Okay.
And what type of firearm was it?
And there were no streetlights, is that correct?
Not at the intersection.
And what time of day was this or night?
This was around 12 a.m.
Okay. So it was really dark. Okay. And what she told you is that it was a dark and colored weapon.
Mhm.
What's any other specific facts that she stated that you can recall?
Semi-automatic 9mm. Now, she wouldn't have known whether it was a 9mm or not. I mean, that's
But she
kind of
told you it was a
specific,
9mm.
But she said 9mm,
Okay.
which in her opinion, I don't know, but she's probably making it to be more specific as far as and handgun, whether it's 9mm, 45, 40 cal, whatever. But she did say black handgun, possibly a Glock, but
Okay.
she wouldn't know the make and model or the caliber.
Okay. So she seemed to be kind of enhancing what she had actually seen or could actually testify to,
Enhancing, that's a stretch.
giving more details than she necessarily had.
Correct.
Okay. You said you spoke to Mr. Stanley and he stated that he had some other object on him. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And you said machete, but then you also said a blunt object. Do you have any idea what that type of object was?
It was like it wasn't like a machete that you buy. It was something that looks like it was old. I've seen them multiple times. I think a lot of them, and by them, I mean a lot of the residentially challenged people that I run into, they have blunt objects that they carry on them for whatever reason. And they're usually wrapped with duct tape. And that's what that was, that he kept inside of his waistband,
Okay. So maybe for protection.
possibly.
Okay. And it was dark colored. It was metal. What did it look like?
It was dark colored, rusted. Like all I remember, it was in the shape of like a machete, but not technically a knife or sword type object. It was just blunt.
Was it metal? Was it wood?
It wasn't wood.
Okay.
Some type of, you could say metal. Didn't feel like steel, but it wasn't wood. It wasn't plastic.
Okay. So you're not really sure what it was made out of.
No.
Okay.
I wouldn't have a way to confirm whether it was made out of
Okay. And what color was it?
dark color.
Dark color. Okay. And about how big was it? Can you hold your hands up? Oh, sorry, I can't see you.
It's about that long.
Okay. So about a foot in length.
Maybe a little longer than that.
Okay. Was it skinny, narrow?
Skinny, narrow, tube shape. I mean,
Okay. And when you spoke to Mr. Stanley, did he say that he pointed this at Miss McArthur or just that he had it?
To be totally transparent and honest, I don't remember whether he pointed the blunt object at her or not. He just had it on him.
You just had it on him. Okay. As far as the other witnesses that you interviewed, the other man who was with Mr. Stanley, did you get his name?
I did, but he's not in the report. I didn't place him as a witness.
Okay, and you have no contact information for him?
No.
Okay, the other EMS worker, do you have their name?
The other female that was with Miss McArthur?
Yes, sir.
No, ma'am.
Okay, did you document her name?
No, I did not.
Okay, and for fire, the two members of fire that you spoke to, do you have their names?
I do not.
And did you document their names anywhere?
Did not.
Okay. Did any of your other witnesses that you spoke to, did they hear what was said allegedly by Mr. Stanley to Miss McCarter, or was that only the testimony of Miss McCarter?
Only the testimony of her.
Okay. Okay, and no weapon was recovered, is that correct? No gun?
Correct.
And you had canines come out?
Correct.
Were these canines that were specifically trained to find weapons or handguns?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right, I believe that's all my questions. Thank you.
Anything else on direct?
One question quickly. You did testify that Mr. Stanley said he was coming to assist and give aid, correct?
Mhm.
Did anybody, such as the EMS or the fire, indicate that they requested him to come over to give aid?
No, ma'am.
Okay, nothing further at this time.
All right, is that it? Any follow-up?
No, Your Honor. No.
All right, thank you, officers. Stay safe out there. Have a good Father's Day.
Thank you.
All right, argument.
Yes, Your Honor. Do you want the defense to go first?
Sure, whichever. Who?
Thanks for coming by.
Okay.
Your Honor, we would ask for a dismissal of the charge of aggravated assault. The testimony here today did not appear to meet the standard for probable cause, whereas there was one witness who could be identified. That witness was the complaining witness in this case, and her testimony occurred in a dark area with no street lights in the middle of the night. They also had canine come out who are specifically trained to search for weapons, and no weapons were recovered. No guns were recovered. And the object that was on Mr. Stanley's person was a dark tubular object. And that was the only item that was recovered, which in a dark room, in a dark street with no street lights, could easily be misidentified. The testimony that Ms. McArthur gave to Officer Green was much more specific than what she could have known by looking at it. And it seemed as though her testimony was somewhat enhanced from what she was actually able to visualize and confirm. So, Your Honor, it does not appear that there was a gun. No gun was recovered in this case. And the officer additionally testified that he's not sure if this tubular object that Mr. Stanley had on his person was ever pointed at Ms. McArthur, was ever used to threaten her in any way. He had no idea, and he did not have any evidence of that. So, Your Honor, the standard for probable cause has not been met for a charge of aggravated assault in this case. Thank you.
All right, go ahead.
Yes, Your Honor, the state would ask that you do find probable cause in this case. The officer did testify that not only did Ms. McCarter see a firearm, but several witnesses who were there also saw a firearm pointed as well. Also, the defendant himself indicated that he had some sort of disagreement with Ms. McArthur. Even though a weapon was not found, the officer did testify that there had been a bit of time in between when he showed up and when the alleged incident occurred. the standard for probable cause, as you know, is a low burden. I believe that there's been enough here provided by the officer's testimony and his canvassing of the fire and EMS employees at that time, and specifically the complaining witness herself, who identified it as a firearm. They all said the same thing, pointed a firearm, that the probable cause standard has been met, and the state would ask that you find as such.
All right, I'll find probable cause on aggravated assault. He's got a $10,000 good bond as of April 10th. You want to be heard on bond?
We would.
Pre-trial.
4 cycles, 3 out of Florida, 1 out of Georgia, no convictions listed.
All right, go ahead.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Stanley is a Desert Storm Navy vet who served for 8 years, Your Honor, in the United States Navy. He served 5 years at sea, 2 at shore in cycles. He also worked San Antonio law enforcement as physical security. He has 7 children and a grandchild that was just born today. One of his children is a doctor at Purdue University, and he also has several other children in the military as well. Your Honor, he has significant family, significant support. He has no failures to appear, no probation or paroles, no prior felonies. The only charges are driving charges in his history at all. Your Honor, we would ask that the court reduce bond in this case. Mr. Stanley was at the scene assisting with rendering aid. There is a dispute as to the facts of this case and whether or not there was any weapon. I understand this was a probable cause hearing, but based on the testimony today, I think it's clear that it is very possible that there was never any gun or any threat made towards the complaining witness in this case. And I would ask that the court take that into consideration in setting bond. We're asking for a bond of $5,000. That way we can go through the bail project when we have family member who can confirm his address, Your Honor.
Okay, go ahead, Miss Patton.
Yes, Your Honor. The state would ask that you not lower the bond at this time. He does have a bond, as is his right. A $10,000 bond is more than fair and reasonable considering the allegations in this case. The state would again request that you not lower it. However, if you are entitled to not entitled, if you are inclined, thank you, inclined to lower the bond above the state's objection, we ask it to be no less than $7,500, no weapons while out on bond, a 24-hour curfew with an ankle monitor with the exceptions of legal, medical, and basic life necessities, and no contact with the victim in this case unless it is for medical emergency services, as I believe she's an EMS worker.
All right, no drugs unless prescribed, no alcohol, no weapons. Stay away from 170 Rawson, W-A-S-O-N Street, Southwest. No further contact with Lauren McArter, M-C-A-R-T-E-R. You're going to have an ankle monitor paid for by the county with a 24-hour curfew. Court, lawyer, medical, employment, as long as you supply the name of your employer, proof of employment, schedule, and the exact location you're going to be working. Also, basic life necessities. $7,500 good bond. Best of luck to you, sir.
Yeah, can I ask that you remove the stay away condition? That was just a random street that he responded to the scene. There's no complaining witnesses there or anything else.
Yeah, I asked for a no contact.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, not a stay away. I thought it was just a random street over here.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, you can take, excuse me, you can take the address off. All right, who's
So
next?
you want me to take the stay away off, Judge?
Just stay away for that address, that's fine.
Okay, thank you.
The next one, Your Honor, would be Yamisha Carr.
Carr, is that somebody you got up here already? Okay, all right. Yamisha Carr.
Yeah, this officer has been working all night as well.
All right, raise your right hand. Do you swear firm testimony you're about to give is truth, whole truth, nothing but the truth?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, have a seat, speak into the microphone loudly and state your name. Spell it for the court reporter.
My name is Andre Valentine, A-N-D-R-E. Last name Valentine, V-A-L-E-N-T-I-N-E.
All right, stand by. We'll get the defendant out here.
What's your title, Officer Valentine?
I'm a patrol officer.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, this is position 3, 23 CP 217553. Yamisha Carr, 70 days without indictment. There's a $16,000 good bond, April the 14th. Burglary in the second degree in possession of Schedule 2 controlled substance. Go ahead, Ms. Patton.
Thank you. Hello, Officer Valentine.
Hey, how you doing, man?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
I'm good.
Where are you currently employed?
City of Atlanta Police Department, Zone 2.
City of Atlanta?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And were you employed there on or about April 8th, 2023?
Yes, ma'am.
Are you post-certified?
Yes, ma'am.
Were you post-certified on or about April 8th, 2023?
Yes, ma'am.
And how did you come in contact with the defendant?
We received a phone call from a anonymous caller, one of the residents in the neighborhood, saying that they heard a loud bang coming from the leasing office. They looked out their window and they also saw a male and a female enter into the leasing office, and then they just heard rummaging around. Myself and Officer Maxwell arrived on scene. Ms. Carr was the only one inside of the leasing office. She was sitting behind the desk and she was going through the paperwork of the leasing office.
Okay. I'm going to back up and forgive me if I didn't hear you. Did you say male and a female?
Male and a female.
Okay. I thought you said melanated female. Okay. A male and a female. Did you ever see a male when you arrived on the scene?
We did not.
Okay. What scene did you arrive to? What's the address of that?
That is 2572 Lenox Road.
Is that here in Fulton County?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And when you arrived on the scene, you stated that you saw the defendant going through what?
The file cabinet of the desk. So
Okay.
she was sitting behind one of the leasing agent's desks.
Did you ask her what she was doing there?
Yes, she said that she worked there, but I knew that was false because 2 days prior I had just dealt with Ms. Carr for a separate incident where she advised that she was a homeless female and she got beat up for her tent.
Okay.
Yes.
When you arrived at the scene, was there any glass or windows broken?
So the front door was kicked in to the leasing office.
Okay. Kicked in. Was there damage to the door?
Yes,
Okay. Did you detain Ms. Carr?
we did.
And did you read her Miranda warnings?
I did. Yes, ma'am.
And did she ever indicate to you other than she worked there as to why she was there?
Yes. So she first said she worked there, and she said that she worked there and that she lost her keys. That's why she made entry into the leasing office. Then she said that she stayed there. She kept saying we, so which indicated that it was somebody else there. She said that they stayed there and that they were looking for paperwork for their apartment so they could get their kid back. So she told a couple of different stories.
Okay. Did you ever see anyone else other than Ms. Carr there?
No, ma'am.
Okay. So worked there, stayed there, and was trying to get paperwork to get a kid back?
To get her kids back. Yes, ma'am.
Oh, okay. Did you ever search Ms. Carr incident to the arrest?
We did. I had a female officer, Officer Maxwell, searched her.
And was anything located?
No, ma'am. Nothing was located until we got to the jail, and the Fulton County correction officer searched her and found controlled substance on her.
What did they find?
A small baggie of possible meth.
Was it sent off for testing?
I'm not sure, but I placed it into evidence.
You placed it into evidence?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Do you deal with narcotics?
I do not.
Who was the officer who found the suspected meth?
It was, let me see if I put her name in the report.
And if you're looking down, please let the court know what you're looking at.
Okay, so I am looking at my police report,
Okay.
my narrative from my police report. I'm sorry.
Try not to read it, but you can use it to refresh your memory.
Okay.
Okay.
So I did not put exactly who found it on her when they did the strip search at Fulton County Jail. I just put that it was a Fulton County correction officer.
Okay. Did you ever speak to anybody regarding that?
As far as
Regarding the methamphetamine officer?
I spoke with the officer and I also spoke with the judge because I had to go take out a separate warrant once I got to the jail.
Okay. what did you learn? You said you spoke to an officer and you spoke to the jail,
The judge, I'm sorry.
the judge.
Mhm.
Which judge?
I'm not sure. Whoever signed my warrant. I
Okay.
had to go back and fill out a separate warrant for the narcotics that was found.
Okay. Did the officer describe to you what the methamphetamine looked like?
No, ma'am. Well,
Okay.
it was a small clear baggie of a crystal-like substance.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
So a crystallized form.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Where was that found?
I'm not sure exactly where it was found on her person.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Was your body cam footage working when you did the initial stop?
Yes.
Was that submitted for evidence?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. You said you had previously dealt with Ms. Carr regarding another incident. Was that previous incident at the same location?
No, ma'am.
That was at a different location.
Yes, ma'am.
And did she indicate to you on the previous incident that this apartment complex was her apartment complex?
No, ma'am. She told me that she stayed in a tent under a bridge.
Okay.
Yes,
Did you remind her of that inconsistency when you met with her?
I did.
And she stated,
I can't remember exactly what she said, but I know I told her that I remember her from 2 days prior or a few days prior from just dealing with her as far as the assault incident.
okay. The person who was in the leasing office at that time and who you arrested, are they in the courtroom currently?
Yes, ma'am.
Feel free to stand up if you need to. Please let me know if they are on my right. This is my right, or this is my left, and identify them with an article of clothing.
Okay. She's on your left. She has her hair up in, I believe, twist or dreadlocks. She has on a white undershirt, long sleeve undershirt with a blue short sleeve shirt on top.
Okay. Please let the record reflect that the witness has identified the defendant, Ms. Carr.
All right, the record will reflect.
Did you ever talk to Ms. Carr after she was detained and after the meth was found on her?
I can't recall.
Okay. Did you ever at any time ask her who the other person she was talking about was?
I can't recall. I'm sorry.
Okay. But when you arrived to the scene, was there only one person in the leasing office?
Yes, ma'am.
And that was Ms. Carr.
Yes.
Did she run when she saw you?
No, she just sat there and continued to go through the paperwork.
Did she shout any threats at you?
No.
Okay. You stated that the door was, I'm going to back up here. You said that the door was kicked in. Describe what you mean by that.
So the door, it was still on the hinges, but the lock was broken and you could tell that forced entry was made into the door.
Okay.
So it might not have been kicked in, but it was forced open.
Okay. Did you ask her how she got in?
No, ma'am, we did not.
Did you ask her, did she have any keys to the door?
No, we did not.
Okay. Was there any security footage with this incident?
There were cameras inside of the leasing office. I did not see the video footage because I left to take Ms. Carr to jail before the property manager arrived on scene.
Okay. Did you talk to an officer who did review the footage?
I believe the footage was submitted into evidence, but I'm not sure if she reviewed it either.
Okay, but it has been submitted for
Yes,
evidence.
ma'am.
Okay. Forgive me for asking again. Did you ever? Oh, I think you did state that she was searched at the jail, and that's where the methamphetamine was found.
Yes, ma'am.
Is the search at the jail more thorough than the one you would have done incident to arrest?
It is.
Can you tell me a little bit about searches at the jail, what they consist of?
Well, at the jail, they require you to, it's a strip search. So they require you to completely get unclothed, and then they do a cavity search. And I believe that's how it was found. On scene, we just do a search and a pat down. So we aren't required to actually go in their clothing or on their person to look for any.
By cavity, you mean body cavities?
Yes.
Okay. And incident to that, methamphetamine was found on Ms. Carr.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Did you ever ask Ms. Carr, did she have any narcotics on her?
Yes, actually.
And
When
did
we
she
sat
say-
her down, we asked her, did she have any sharp objects that can poke, stick, or harm us, or any drug paraphernalia? And she said no.
She said what?
She said no. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Yeah,
You just shook your head.
I'm sorry.
Okay, no problem. Is there anything else that you learned during this investigation that we haven't covered here today?
No, ma'am.
Okay, nothing further at this time.
All right, Cross.
Good afternoon.
Hey, how you doing?
Good. Who was the 911 caller in this case?
It was an anonymous caller,
Okay.
and they did not want to be contacted.
Okay. Do y'all have their contact information or no?
No, ma'am.
Okay. That caller stated they saw 2 people. Is that correct?
Yes.
Did that caller specify which person entered into the door?
No.
Okay. They only stated that they saw 2 people and then heard a loud noise. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. When you arrived, you stated that Ms. Carr had documents in her hand. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you know what kind of documents they were?
I don't know exactly what kind of documents they were, but they did belong to the business because it had the business's address on it. And the desk, like the file cabinet desk, was open as she was going through the documents.
Okay. You didn't look at what type of documents they were, if they were a lease or blank documents or
No,
anything?
ma'am, I
like
did
that?
not.
Okay. Did you ask Ms. Carr what type of documents they were?
I believe I did, and like I said, she just stated that she was looking for paperwork in order to get her kids back.
Okay. And on this day, she testified that that leasing office managed the place where she lived. Is that correct?
Yes, and she also stated that she worked there as well.
Okay. Were you able to verify whether or not Ms. Carr resided at a residence managed by that leasing office?
I was not.
Okay. Did you ask?
The leasing office?
Mhm.
No, ma'am, I did not.
Okay. And were you able to verify whether or not Ms. Carr worked at that leasing office?
I was
Okay. How did you do so?
from the leasing agent.
And what was the leasing agent's name?
I'm not sure,
Okay.
but I did get that information from the officer that remained on scene.
Okay. Was there any damage done to the desk?
No, ma'am.
And the only damage that you stated was the damage to the door lock. Is that correct?
Yes,
And you have no indication of whether that was Ms. Carr or someone else who damaged the lock.
I did not.
Okay. All right. And to your knowledge, no property was taken from the premises,
No, ma'am.
and the leasing office did not report anything missing.
No, ma'am.
All right. Thank you.
All right, anything else on direct?
Yes, you just testified that you were able to verify that Ms. Carr did not work here or work there. Did the person from the leasing office to your officer or do you indicate that anyone had permission to enter into the leasing office?
No, ma'am.
Okay. And about what time did this happen?
I was dispatched at 4:17, so I believe it happened about about 5 minutes prior to that.
AM or PM?
AM.
And was the leasing office open at those hours?
No, ma'am.
Okay, nothing further.
All right, anything else?
No, Your Honor.
All right, thank you, officers. Stay safe out there.
All right, thank you so much.
All right, argument? Sure.
Thanks.
Your Honor, a charge of burglary requires intent to commit a theft or felony. There was no evidence given that there was intent to do so at this point. He stated that she merely had some paperwork in her hands and was looking through it and wanted to get some copies of some stuff. There was no indication that she intended to commit a theft, did commit a theft, or intended to commit a felony, or did commit a felony. Therefore, the probable cause for the burglary charge has not been met by the evidence today. We will submit the second charge on the record.
Go, Ms. Patton.
Your Honor, I do believe that there has been enough to satisfy the intent of a burglary. The witness did testify that Miss Carr was looking through some documents, presumably ones that she had no access to, as it was 4 a.m. in the apartment complex that she did not work in. The state would submit that the intent element has been met and that the burglary and the second degree charge and the possession of Schedule II controlled substance are both appropriate and probable cause has been met on both.
All right, we found probable cause on both. There's a $16,000 good bond, April 14th, pre-trial.
3 cycles, no felony convictions.
Go ahead, Ms. Cole.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Carr is 32 years old. She is born and raised in Georgia. She does have an address on file, and that is her correct address. She lives there with her uncle and her uncle's girlfriend. She also is a high school graduate and also graduated Empire Beauty School and was looking at enrolling in a technical school as well at the time of her arrest. She has 2 children, Your Honor, who are 5 and 4 years old. Your Honor, and I do think that this matters for bond. She does have an open juvenile case and has not been transported for any hearings, has not had the opportunity to speak to her social worker. She's housed at ACDC, and there are a lot of communication issues with ACDC and being able to have any contact. It is her legal right to appear at those hearings, and it is the legal obligation of DFACS to contact her monthly. She's been in custody for 70 days and has had 0 contact. She was working a case plan in order to return custody of her children and cannot do so until she is bonded out because the state is not complying with their legal obligations in that case, Your Honor. So we would ask that bond be reduced in this case. On the possession of a Schedule II, we'd ask for that it be reduced to $500. On the burglary and the second degree, Your Honor, given the testimony today, we would ask for a $1,000 bond on that charge.
Go ahead, Ms. Patton.
What's her current bond?
16,000.
She is being held on a misdemeanor case as well, though. So her total bond right now is $24,500.
But it's 16,000 on this case.
Yes.
Your Honor, this defendant has a bond and as such is entitled to one. We would ask that the court not lower the bond. If Your Honor is entitled, or I'm sorry, I keep saying entitled. If Your Honor is inclined to lower the bond, we ask that it be no less than 10,000 in total.
All right. No drugs unless prescribed, no alcohol, no weapons. Stay away from 2572 Lennox Road. That's Lennox Place Apartments. Now, she's got the Sandy Springs address, right? I'm sorry, there's a Beaufort Highway.
It's the address on file, Your Honor. Yes.
The Beaufort Highway, ma'am?
Yes.
Okay, there was one for Sandy Springs. Okay. I want you to be able to work your case plan. So we'll make it 4,500 on the burglary, 500 on the Schedule II. You have an ankle monitor paid for by the county with a 24-hour curfew. Court, lawyer, medical, employment. Also going to court, that includes juvenile court and basic life necessities, because I'd like for you to get your kids back. As long as you supply the name of your employer, proof of employment schedule, and the exact location you'll be working. Best of luck to you, ma'am. Is the officer here for Timothy Chikoski?
No, Your Honor.
No, Your Honor.
Bring that up. Bring that out then. Bring him out. Chikoski real quick. One down.
Chudowski.
Chikoski. Timothy. Timothy. And then who you want, which officer you want up here? Do we need an interpreter for Ramirez
No,
Fernandez?
Your Honor.
You said no?
No, Your Honor.
Oh, okay. Which officer? Is Ramirez Hernandez, is that officer here?
No, Your Honor.
No, Your Honor.
Okay. Michael Shaw?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. Who's on Michael Shaw? All right, you come on up. We'll get these 2 out of the way and then. Is it Chudkowski?
Chikoski.
Because Ms. Watt said we have to stop at 3.
We have to?
That's what Ms. Watt said.
Well, if you say it, then it has to be done.
So just dismissals for the rest that we don't.
Yeah, right. Or you could waive and just,
I had a whole stack.
I would be willing to waive if you'd consent to reasonable bonds, but unfortunately.
I think all my bonds are reasonable.
You can tell the long weekend's coming up. We're all ready to.
I believe this particular officer too has a long shift coming ahead of him. So
Oh, you do? All right, we'll hurry up and get you out of here. You can have a seat until we'll get these out of here pretty quick.
All right.
You were my other father as well?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Now everybody has kids. Get out of here. Everybody has kids. Happy
We
Father's
should
Day.
have done Mother's Day, see how many officers showed
Oh,
up with
no,
kids,
right, yeah.
kids on Mother's Day.
Happy Father's Day.
Thank you, Your Honor.
So you guys back on 12-hour shift?
No,
Not yet.
no, hopefully we don't go back no time soon.
And just click back over. So if he asks you back, you could tell him that. But it's,
Ms.
I
Cole,
think it's
you're
good
still-
now. Check it.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm good. Thank you.
You hear me, Maria? It just like started, so I had to go like individual every time I think yeah. And that's what I'm saying. I don't. They always change it. All right, this is position 7, 23 CP 217554. Timothy Chakosky, 69 days without indictment. Excuse me, charge of aggravated assault and 1 criminal damage to property, and there's no bond as of 4/10. Ms. Patton.
Yes, Your Honor. The state would ask for a one-time reset for this case. The officer, I do believe, was properly subpoenaed, Miss Officer Holloway of Atlanta PD. So I would like a one-time reset to see if we could find where he is approximately 2 weeks from now.
Go ahead, Ms. Cole.
Your Honor, we would object to a reset and ask for a dismissal on this case. The officer was lawfully subpoenaed, is not present here today, and there was no reason given why he was not here, no lawful reason to excuse him from his subpoena. The state has full rights and abilities to indict this case if they have a witness come forward at grand jury. So we would ask for a dismissal.
All right, once again, I'm only going to give one reset for Officer Dilly, Dillii Holloway, and I'll put that in my email to one of the deputy chiefs at APD. Ms. Watts.
So they're gonna reset your case, okay?
July 7th at 1 p.m.
Is that good for you, Ms. Cole, July 7th, 1 p.m.?
I can ask if we can set up. one.
Oh,
There's
I
no
missed-
bond right now.
What's that last case on the first one, on the first calendar, number 7? Didn't we reset that till the 5th? Okay. All right. So July 7th at 1 p.m.
Yeah, I remember it was the 5th because the officer asked me how I knew what day of the week the 5th was on. So that one had to be that day.
Would the court hear bond today?
All right, let's see. What? Pre-trial.
Which position? Which position?
4.
28 cycles, 2022 conviction for battery on a law enforcement officer, 2016 conviction for possession of cannabis. These cycles are out of Florida, I believe, 3 FTAs, 2 probation violations.
All right, go ahead.
Do you have the dates of the FTAs and probation violations?
Do not. If you give me a moment, I can go look in the GCFC.
I'll go ahead till she gets the dates.
I can go for it if you're waiting on that.
You can go first.
Okay. The state would ask that this remain in a no bond status. He has a 2022 battery against a law enforcement officer. And the 4 corners of the warrant are outlining a alleged knife being wielded at a Grady EMS. Also, this defendant has 3 FTAs, multiple probation violations. This defendant serves as a significant likelihood to recommit additional felonies and a danger to the community. State would ask that this remain in a no bond status as it hadn't even reached 90-day mark yet.
All right, the most recent FTA, December of 2022. Prior to that, January of 2018, and then September of 2017.
Go ahead, Ms. Cole.
Hi. Thank you, Your Honor. We would ask that the court set bond in this case. This incident likely arose out of a MH altercation. He had called EMS, who then refused to transport him to the hospital to address some of his medical issues that he had. It sounded like he did have one recent FTA, Your Honor. I can look back on it, but I believe he might have been in custody at that time in Fulton County. I don't have that evidence today, Your Honor, but it sounded like there were only 2 felony convictions as well. Although we have not reached the 90 days, we would ask that the court set bond on this case today, and just a reasonable bond.
Let's see, no drugs unless prescribed, no alcohol, no weapons, no further contact with David Bird. Stay away from 35 Jesse Hill, unless you're there for medical treatment. I'm still gonna say no bond on ag assault and 5,000 on the criminal damage to property. Best of luck to you, sir. See you July 7th. What about Alejandro Ramirez Hernandez? This one. All right, this is position 5, 23 CP 217560. Alejandro Ramirez Hernandez, 68 days without indictment, $7,500 split bond, ag assault, willful obstruction, misdemeanor, tampering with evidence. Ms. Patton?
Yes, Your Honor. The state would ask for a reset. Officer Kylie Smith of Roswell PD. I do believe she was subpoenaed, but I would ask for a 2-week reset so I could locate my officer.
Ms. Cole?
Your Honor, we would ask for a dismissal because the officer was lawfully subpoenaed. There was no lawful excuse given for why they did not appear on a subpoena. I'm here, the state's here. We also got this calendar at the same time. I would ask the case be dismissed, and the state can indict if they choose to.
All right, I'll give this one final reset for Officer Kylie Smith. Looks like that's Roswell PD. I'll send an email, this one-time reset for July 7th at 1 p.m. Anything else, Ms. Cole?
Your Honor, I believe we would like to be heard on bond. Can you give me like 2 minutes to talk to my client real quick?
Okay, when I'm calling it out, is that good?
Yes.
Okay, all right, pre-trial, this will be number 5, 23 CP 217560, Alejandro Ramirez Hernandez. There's a $7,500 split bond on ag assault, willful obstruction, misdemeanor, tampering with evidence. Pre-trial.
6 cycles, no felony convictions, 1 other open case, 22 CP 209438. That is for VGCSA, possession of a controlled substance, in Schedule 2. Nothing further.
Okay,
He's in a no bond on the ag assault?
right, yeah.
Okay.
And the other open case had $1,000 good bond in May of last year. Okay, whenever you're ready, Ms. Cole.
Thank you,
I'll
Honor.
rush you.
Mr. Ramirez Hernandez is 28 years old. He's been here in the state of Georgia for 23 years. His immediate family also all lives here as well. He has his brother has a business and he has a job lined up to go work with his brother. Your Honor, I did miss part of pretrial, but I don't believe he had any failure to appears. I think he has one open case, and we are asking that bond be set on this case. I think he had 6 cycles and he's 28 years old. That's relatively small. We would ask that the court set a $8,000 bond on the aggravated assault.
Yeah, the one open case was a Schedule 2, and he's a $1,000 bond on that last May. Ms. Patton?
State would ask that the aggravated assault charge remain in a no bond status due to the fact that in the 4 corners of the warrant, what's alleged here is a firearm being pointed at someone, which is inherently dangerous to the community and to the victim. Was there a bond set on the willful obstruction and tampering?
There was.
Okay. We just would ask that those remain the same that they are.
No drugs unless prescribed, no alcohol, no weapons. Stay away from 117 Wood Creek Court in Roswell, Georgia. No further contact with Nelson Graves. You're gonna have an ankle monitor paid for by the county with a 24-hour curfew. Court, lawyer, medical, employment, as long as you supply the name of your employer, proof of employment, schedule, and the exact location you're going to be working, and also basic life necessities. Of course, I closed it to see how much it was. 25,000, 5,000, and 2,000. 25,000, 5,000, 2,000. Best of luck to you, sir. And that's it, right? The rest of them are here, Ms. Patton?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
Corey Smith.
yep, you're right. Corey Smith, sorry.
Okay, Corey Smith in second. Hey, oh, I'm switching up people. Where'd Parker go? She ran out.
Oh, when did she run out? I didn't even notice that there was a change.
32.
home.
Yeah, I'm lost for the direction.
Well, I got one strong, tough deputy back here. Doesn't need to eat, right? He's like, I got this.
Can I just hand him my phone number real quick?
Everybody, thank y'all for being good today. I, of course, sit here and like ate my sandwich quickly. Whew, long day. And y'all usually don't take me this long. Right, Corey Smith. Let's see if this one has. oh. Corey Smith has.
Fleeing, kidnapping, reckless conduct.
And with no bond on the fleeing and the kidnapping.
Don't leave.
I promise, I don't usually take this long. Ain't that right, Ms. Cole, Ms. Patton? We're usually done by now.
I'm having a great time.
Huh?
Having a great time.
Just want to say, speak for yourself.
We're gonna do bond hearing, Ms. Cole.
4 minutes. All right.
Just
So this is Corey Lamont Smith, 23 CP 217571, 69 days without indictment, got driving, fleeing, attempting to elude, kidnapping, driving, improper erratic lane change, reckless conduct, failure to obey stop signs or traffic control devices, improper erratic lane change, driving license suspended or revoked, seatbelt violation, and DUI, marijuana. Whoop. Ms. Patton.
Your Honor, the state would be asking for a one-time reset for this case. The state trooper Mathis, again, my investigator isn't on, I do believe was subpoenaed, but we would ask for a retime so that I can locate him.
Ms. Cole.
And as always, we ask for a dismissal because they're here under lawful subpoena. They did not appear. There was no reason given, no excuse, no legal right, no legal necessity to reset, Your Honor. So we'd ask for a dismissal. The state can and will indict if they deem it appropriate.
Only time, one reset, July the 7th for 1 p.m. Preach. Rah.
19 cycles, all out of South Carolina. A 2021 conviction for assault on a police officer out of South Carolina. And then a 2020 failed to stop at a blue light, or failed to stop for a blue light conviction out of South Carolina. 2 FTAs, both in 2020, and 3 probation violations.
All right. Go ahead, Ms. Cole.
Your Honor, Mr. Smith is 24 years old. He does have a stable address. It is the address on file. He lives there with his mother. He does also have some family in Georgia. His grandmother lives here. He has one child who's turning 1 on July 30th, and he would really like to be there for their first birthday. He has his GED, and he also has a job lined up with his uncle's construction company where he can go upon release. Your Honor, we're asking for $5,000 on the felonies and UJR jail on misdemeanor.
Ms. Patton?
Have any of these been set?
Yes,
Yes. The only two that haven't been is the felony fleeing and looting and the kidnapping.
the rest
Okay.
are all misdemeanors,
I'm sorry.
The rest is 9750 total.
but they're all misdemeanors.
Yeah.
Okay. Your Honor, I would ask that the driving, fleeing, and attempting to elude and kidnapping remain in a no bond status due to the fact this defendant has 19 cycles, is a multi-state offender, so there's a risk of flight, and has multiple FTAs and probation violations. There also poses a danger to the victim in this case and a significant likelihood to reoffend. If Your Honor is inclined to reduce or to set a bond, above the state's objection, we ask that it only take place at the 91st day and that it be no less than $75,000 for the driving and kidnapping total. Driving, fleeing, and the kidnapping total.
All right. Let's see. Right, no drugs unless prescribed, no alcohol, no weapons. This is South Carolina address on file. Is he gonna live here, the South Carolina address on the booking?
He lives in South Carolina, Your Honor. He was here for a vacation, and then was headed back up to South Carolina. So I know the state proffered that he's a multi-state offender, but any record that he has is all in his state of residence other than this charge.
All right, no drugs unless prescribed, no alcohol, no weapons, no driving until you have a valid license, registration, and insurance. You're gonna have an ankle monitor paid for by the county with a 24-hour curfew, court, lawyer, medical, employment, as long as you supply the name of your employer, proof of employment schedule, and the exact location you'll be working, and also basic life necessities. You also stay out of Fulton County, sir. The only reason you come back to Fulton County is court or to see your lawyer. Absolutely no reason for you to come back to Fulton County at all. I'm going to leave driving, fleeing, and attempting to elude and kidnapping in a no bond status. Improper and erratic lane change, 250. Reckless conduct, 3,000. Failure to obey traffic control devices, UJR. Driving in the improper erratic lane change, 250. Driving with suspended or revoked license, 500. UJR for seatbelt violation at 1,500 DUI. That's 0, 0, 250, 3,000. UJR jail, 250, 500. UJR jail, 1,500. Got that, Ms. Hollaback?
They reduced it pretty significantly, but we'll.
No, one more time, please.
0, 0, 250, 3,000. UJR jail, 250, 500. UJR jail, 1,500.
Altogether.
Okay, thank
Uh-huh. Best of luck to you, sir.
And they reduced it. I don't know how much. I didn't-
What's your case again?
Michael Shaw.
Oh, yeah, all right, Shaw. Shaw.
Shaw.
All right, if you raise your right hand, you swear affirm testimony about to give is the truth, whole truth, nothing but the truth?
Yes, Your
All
Honor.
right, state, spell your name into the microphone loudly for the court reporter.
Dennis Castro, DENNISCASTRO.
What's your title, Officer Castro?
I'm a police officer with the City of Atlanta Police.
I'm just asking. We're not going to testify yet.
And this one's got a $1,000 split. All right, this is 23 CP 217568. Michael Shaw, 68 days without indictment. Got a $1,000 split bond as of April the 10th. No bond on burglary of the first degree, UJR jail, theft by receiving stolen property, and $1,000 on criminal trespass. Go ahead, Ms. Patton.
Hi, Officer Castro.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm fine, and so
I'm great. Thank you for asking. Where are you currently employed?
City of Atlanta Police Department.
And are you employed anywhere else?
No, ma'am.
Were you employed with City of Atlanta Police Department on or about April 9th, 2023?
Yes.
And are you post-certified?
Yes.
And were you post-certified on or about April 9th, 2023?
Yes.
Okay. Now, how did you come in contact with the defendant?
I'm the courtesy officer here at the Peninsula at Buckhead.
What does
25
courtesy officer mean?
It's just pretty much it's the title for a position to where for providing services as far as any noise complaints responding to that or any other kind of violations. In return, we may possibly receive some type of compensate or some type of fund towards rent, whether it's rent free, 50% off.
Okay.
That's it.
And how'd you come in contact with the defendant?
The security that was working on site of the property at that moment went ahead and I believe it was that they called me and notified me of a vacant apartment that there was an individual inside of the vacant apartment.
Okay. And did you go investigate?
Yes, I went ahead. He took me to the vacant apartment. Upon arriving there, I went ahead and made entry. That's when I came in contact with Mr. Shaw. I went ahead, I detained Mr. Shaw and went about asking him how do you make entry into the apartment? How was he aware of the apartment being vacant? Things like that. I then went ahead, proceeded to check the rest of the apartment because I believe it was a 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom. So I proceeded to check the rest of the apartment, make sure that there was no other individuals inside at the moment. When I went into one of the bedrooms, I went ahead and I observed several packages from Amazon and other companies with different individuals' names on them. And I actually ran across one of my own packages. And I'll say it was maybe a day or a couple of days before this incident when I encountered Mr. Shaw. I was made aware by the leasing office that we went ahead and received from our package room a burglary that multiple packages from 2 unknown individuals were stolen from the property. And so that's when I went ahead and realized that all those packages inside of this bedroom were the packages that were just recently stolen out of our package room.
Including yours?
Yes, including my own package.
Okay. So this took place at the Peninsula Buckhead?
Yes.
Is that here in Fulton County?
Yes.
Okay. And did you ask the accused what he was doing with the packages?
I don't believe I asked him what exactly he was doing with the packages, but once I went ahead and put 2 and 2 together and now had enough RAS to go ahead and believe that he had something to do with the packages, I read his Miranda rights, and before I could question him, he went ahead and on his own made me aware that he was aware of the packages being in that bedroom, but he claimed that he has nothing to do with it and that it was actually 2 individuals that were the ones to actually commit the theft of the packages. And these 2 individuals that he claims, one of them, I was able to ID him, and that individual that he claimed stole the package originally, he was actually, I believe, just arrested a few days before that on the property for a separate incident. That other individual, I believe, if he was arrested and not just issued a criminal trespass, it was for the same offense of being inside of a vacant apartment on the property.
Okay. You said RS. What is it? What does RS stand?
Reasonable articulate suspicion.
Okay. So you did detain Mr. Shaw,
Yes.
and he indicated to you that 2 individuals were responsible for the packages being there.
Yes. These 2 same individuals, he claimed, are the 2 same individuals that notified him of this apartment that he was currently in, that it was a vacant apartment.
But those individuals you said were already arrested.
No, just one individual.
Okay.
I believe that one individual that I was able to ID, that he was arrested. If he wasn't, then he was just issued a criminal trespass.
Okay. Were those 2 individuals around?
No, not when I was there, not at that moment.
Did he indicate to you, Mr. Shaw, indicate to you where they had gone?
No, I don't believe he knew where they were at the moment.
Okay. Did you ever ask Mr. Shaw what he was doing in a vacant apartment?
I believe so. I believe the response was just that he just needed a place to sleep. When I asked him, was he a homeless person or not, he advised me no. I believe he advised no that he from time to time stays with his mother, but that at the moment he didn't have anywhere that night to go. And then that's when the 2 other individuals apparently made him aware of this apartment that, hey, if you need a place to go, it's a vacant apartment. You can go ahead and crash there.
Okay. So after you arrest Mr. Shaw, what happens next?
After I arrest him, I go ahead. He eventually got transported, I believe. Yeah, it was a Zone 2 officer, I believe, that came out, transported him for me to the City of Atlanta Zone 2 main precinct. And then at that moment, I actually went ahead and did get in contact with the leasing agent that was aware of the theft from the package room. And I tried to ask her if she by any chance still had video footage or image of the two individuals. At the moment, she didn't have access to it because it was in the leasing office, which it was closed at the moment. But when I did send her a picture of Mr. Shaw, she advised that she.
Your Honor, the officer is testifying as to an identification based on video footage. That video footage has not been admitted into evidence today. Under the best evidence rule, a video footage or any testimony regarding a video footage cannot be introduced at a hearing or any testimony about it unless that video is produced. And that is under the rules of evidence, OCGA 2410-1002, the best evidence rule, which does apply at preliminary hearings with the exception of hearsay. However, I have case law that states that hearsay is not an exception for the best evidence rule. And I can cite those cases to the court if you would like.
Sure, give me one.
Hammock v. State, 311, GAAPP, 344, and it's on page 346. It's a 2011 case.
Okay.
It basically states that, let's see. Your Honor, the case has a finding that hearsay is not a exception to the best evidence rule. And although hearsay is admissible at preliminary hearings, it is not one of the given exceptions for the best evidence rule. The statute that contains the best evidence rule does give exceptions, but none of those have been admitted here.
Ms. Patton.
Yes, Your Honor. The officer was actually testifying to what a witness told him about the contents of the video. And the intent of the legislator was to have a lower burden of proof at preliminary hearings, which is why hearsay is allowed. He wasn't testifying to what he necessarily saw in the video, but actually what a witness had told him, which is allowed in a preliminary hearing. I don't believe he said, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't believe he said that he even saw the video to testify as to the contents of it. He was testifying as to what a witness who told him saw the contents of the video. That should be allowed under the hearsay exception to preliminary hearings.
Your Honor, just like there's double hearsay, there can be hearsay on top of the best evidence rule, and the best evidence rule still applies, and no exception that's legally given within the statute has been given here.
Say what you said again.
So, Your Honor,
We are,
Did you say that? They saw it on the video? Is that what you said? Yeah.
No, I was asking, well, I made a call to one of the leasing agents that she apparently, well, no, that she was aware of the incident. But as
Okay.
far as whether she saw the video, I'm not sure. I definitely never saw the video.
Okay, so just that she was aware of it is all, yeah.
so he wasn't even talking about the
And
contents of the
I thought he
video.
had said, because I put video question marks, so I think that she was aware of it.
right, Your Honor, I thought his testimony that was coming up was going to be about
Yeah,
what she's
so I don't
aware
wanna
of
hear
from
what
the
she
video.
saw on the video, but yeah, just that she was aware of it. I got it. Just that, stay right there. She's aware of it. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, did the leasing manager, did she indicate that she had ever seen the defendant before?
It was the leasing agent I was speaking to.
Oh,
but,
leasing agent, excuse me. Did she indicate that she had ever seen the defendant before?
no, not prior.
Did she indicate that she ever saw any of the other two alleged individuals before? Okay. The person who you arrested, are they in the courtroom currently?
Yes.
You stand up if you need to.
Can you please, I'm going to ask you to go ahead and identify them, whether or not they're on my left or on my right, and with an article of clothing.
The gentleman is going to be on your left. He is going to be wearing a blue shirt and a white shirt underneath that.
Please let the record reflect that the witness has identified the defendant, Mr. Shaw.
All right, record will reflect. Go ahead.
Okay. Did you ever get into depth with Mr. Shaw about the identity of the other alleged individuals, like who they were, what their names were, anything like that?
Yes.
Okay. And what did he let you know?
For the one individual that is still unknown, I don't believe he had any information on him. For the other individual that he went ahead, he alleged stole the packages, he did provide me information on him. He provided me, I believe, with a first and last name, and then was attempting to show me a Facebook profile picture of him.
Did you ever see him around?
I've never physically seen that individual.
Were any of the packages opened?
Yes.
And what were the contents of any of the packages?
Mine's was
It's embarrassing. You don't have to.
No,
I don't know
no,
what
no,
you
no.
want. If it's something you don't want to tell us. It's private. You don't.
no,
have to.
no, no, yeah. Now mine's was the containers for the inside of the refrigerator, the brackets that go on the doors, and then the other packages I seen, anything from dog food to women's clothing, and a bunch of other miscellaneous items.
Did the defendant ever have any items on him?
He had not on his person, but in his backpack.
How do you know it's his backpack?
He advised me it was his backpack.
And what was in that backpack?
Inside of that backpack was his personal belongings, from clothing to, I believe he had paperwork with his name on it. And then also it was this like a clear, I guess you could say, larger Ziploc style bag. And inside of that bag was a woman's bikini outfit, a pink bikini outfit. And on that bag, it was the same marking coming from the same company, matching other other Ziploc bags inside of the bedroom with other packages and property that was stolen, that was located in there.
Do you remember what the name of the company was?
I do not recall at the moment.
And you just look down, let the court know what it is you're looking down at.
I was looking down at my warrants, my arrest warrants.
Okay, so you stated that the defendant told you, you testified earlier that the defendant told you that it was his two friends had told him about this apartment and they were the ones responsible for the thefts.
Yes.
But he couldn't identify one of them at all to you?
Yeah, one individual, he wasn't able to identify him. I don't believe he referred to him as a friend. He just referred that it was, that second individual was responsible for the theft. But I don't think he was a friend of his.
Okay. Did anyone ever identify the defendant as the person stealing the packages?
No.
You stated there was video, but you didn't see it.
Yes, there was video footage of the actual theft of the packages, but I never was able to observe it.
Did a leasing agent observe it?
The leasing agent I spoke to, I'm not sure if she observed it. What I was made aware of that she did see was a still shot of the two
Objection.
suspects.
That's still the same thing as the best evidence rule, a photo, a video, or a document.
Do you want to rephrase the question? Identifying the item from the video, from the photo?
No. May I approach, Your Honor, with Ms. Cole?
Sure.
Just that, I don't know what the party just, you identify, just take theory. Thanks, just like you said. Okay. Okay. You have 30 seconds. No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. All right, go ahead.
Okay. You stated the leasing agent looked at the video footage.
No, I'm not sure she ever observed any video footage.
You said the footage was taken.
No, so as far as video footage, I'm not aware of the leasing agent that I spoke to. She ever observed it. What I do remember her showing me was an image of the video footage. So it was a screenshot.
There was footage then.
Yeah,
Of
there's
the
definitely
incident.
video footage. Yeah,
Okay.
I've never
But
seen
you didn't see the video footage. I got it. But
Yeah,
you did
and
see a screenshot from it.
Yes.
Okay. Are you able to identify the defendant in it?
Identify the defendant here, if that was him in the photo or not.
Yes.
Oh, no. When I saw the footage, when I saw the image, I didn't pay attention to the two individuals. So no, I wouldn't be able to identify the
Was
defendant.
anyone able to identify the defendant from that
No.
screenshot? Okay.
Well, we did a good job up here.
All right, so let's move on. Did you ever ask the defendant the contents of his backpack, why there was, I think you said women's swim stuff. Did you ask him about that?
Yes, I did ask him. I just don't recall what was his response in regards to why did he have a woman's bikini set in his backpack.
Okay, and around what time did you interact with the defendant?
I believe
You can take a look at your warrant to refresh your memory, but if you just can't read from it, so.
I believe it was anywhere from 10 p.m. to about 11 p.m., somewhere within that range.
Did anyone indicate that the defendant had a right to be in the vacant apartment?
No,
Did the defendant have a key to that apartment?
no,
Was there anything, any furniture in that apartment?
no.
Okay. Did you ask the defendant what he was doing in that apartment?
I'm sorry about the furniture. I believe the only thing that was in there was a air mattress, if I'm correct, in the bedroom where the packages were at. And
What's an air mattress?
inflated mattress filled
Okay.
with air.
Okay. I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought. You said you did ask him about the women's bathing suit, and you don't recall what his answer was as to why he had it in his backpack?
No, I don't recall, but it was captured on my body camera.
Did you have any other items of contraband that were located in that apartment?
As far as illegal
Yes.
contraband, no, I didn't recover any illegal contraband.
Was there anyone else in that apartment other than the defendant?
No, he was by himself at the moment.
And you said you had body camera. Was that submitted for evidence?
Yes,
And you did read Miranda warnings to the defendant?
yes.
Do you have an idea of how much the cost was, or did anyone tell you the cost of the various items that were stolen and found in that vacant apartment?
No,
Did you get an itemized list?
no, because the victims of those packages, I had no way of being able to get in contact with them. The packages showed their apartment numbers, but yeah, there was no way for me to be able to get in contact with them, especially at that time of night. So I was never able to get an itemized list.
The items that you saw in the packages, tell me what you saw again. Were any of them open, any of the packages?
Yes, it was I saw dog food, a phone case. Like I said, mine's was the container for the inside of a fridge. But as far as that, I wouldn't be able to tell you how much that cost just because when I purchased the fridge, it was items that come with it.
How many packages would you say were in the room?
Probably at least definitely a dozen, maybe anywhere between 20 to maybe 50 packages from
20 to 50 packages.
Yeah, maybe more. It was on anywhere from large boxes to small packages, little envelopes.
Okay. You charged Mr. Shaw with burglary in the first degree. What was your probable cause basis on that charge?
He went ahead and he advised me he didn't live there. I was made aware that it was a vacant apartment, so he didn't have any authorization to be in there. And then also due to the recent events that occurred with the packages being stolen, and then I ended up finding my own package. So I was at least one witness to be able to know that he didn't have any permission to have possession of these packages. That was my probable cause.
Okay. You also charged the defendant with theft by receiving stolen property, a felonious theft by receiving property. What was the probable cause for that one?
The probable cause for that was I wasn't able to say that he was the individual that actually committed the theft of these stolen packages. But now at this moment, he is in possession of the stolen packages. And once again, at least for one of my packages being stolen, I was able to go ahead and say that he didn't have any authorization to have these items in his possession.
Okay. Theft by receiving stolen property, though, is also a misdemeanor. So what was the probable cause basis for charging it as a felony?
I believe, if I'm correct, it changes from a misdemeanor to a felony depending on the value of the item.
And where did you get a probable cause basis for the value of the items?
I didn't. I just looking at it reasonably, looking at all of the items, from the clothing to the dog food, the phone case, and then also my package is reasonable enough to say that it was going to be over the amount to be able to make it a felony.
Okay. And you also charged Mr. Shaw with criminal trespass. What was your probable cause basis for that?
For entering onto the property that he had no authorization to be on, and then also remaining inside of that vacant apartment that once again he didn't have any authorization to be inside of.
Is there anything else you learned from your investigation that we haven't covered here today?
No, ma'am.
Nothing further at this time.
All right, Cross.
Good afternoon, officer. Is it Officer Castro?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and what's your first name?
Dennis.
Dennis. Okay, thank you. Were you the arresting officer?
Yes.
Okay. And so you work both for the Atlanta Police Department as well as a courtesy officer for the Peninsula at Buckhead?
Yes. So for the courtesy officer, for the city, for the department side of it, it's just a off-duty, extra job for us.
Okay, sounds good. Who made the 911 call?
There was no 911 call made that night.
Okay. The vacant apartment, there was no resident of that apartment. Is that correct?
Yes, there's no resident.
Okay. How long had that apartment been vacant?
I'm not aware of that.
Okay. And you stated that Mr. Shaw knew that it was vacant. Is that correct?
Yes,
Okay. And he told you he knew it was vacant how?
by his the two other individuals.
Okay. And he provided you names of those individuals, or at least one of them, right?
Yes, just one.
Okay. And that person was actually arrested for the same charge. Is that correct?
I believe he was arrested, but not for the same charges that Mr. Shaw was charged with.
Okay, but at least for criminal trespass.
I believe if he was arrested, I imagine it would have been for criminal trespass. The other individual was arrested for, I imagine so.
And was it of the same apartment,
No, it was a different apartment.
different apartment unit?
Yeah,
Okay.
it was a different unit.
Okay. For the one who was arrested, correct?
The other individual, yeah, it was separate from the one that Mr. Shaw was in at the moment.
Okay. But you're not sure about the unidentified person?
Yeah, the other identified person, I still haven't been able to identify him.
Okay. The vacant apartment, was it unlocked?
Yes,
Okay. There was no damage done to that apartment?
I believe there was damage done to the door. I just can't remember if it was that the keyhole was missing or not.
Okay. You stated it was unlocked though. Was the door unlocked?
When I arrived, yes, it was unlocked. I was able to just go ahead and open the door when I arrived to the apartment.
Okay. And you have no knowledge of if there was damage, what that damage would be,
Yes, no, I would have any idea.
or who may have damaged it?
Yeah, I would
Okay.
have any idea.
Because you testified that Mr. Shaw knew it was vacant based on somebody else telling him that.
Yes,
Okay. You also testified that the packages that were found, they were not stolen from that vacant apartment, correct?
no, they were stolen from the package room on the property.
Okay. And Mr. Shaw has not been identified as anyone who may have taken those packages.
No,
Thank you. You did have the opportunity to interview Mr. Shaw, correct?
yes,
Okay. And did you offer him a Miranda warning?
yes,
Okay. And is the entirety of the interview captured on body camera?
yes,
And that body camera is preserved into evidence?
yes,
Okay. And he was cooperating with you, is that correct?
yes,
In fact, he provided you the names of other people.
yes.
Okay. And just again, I think he testified to this, but I just want to confirm. When you asked Mr. Shaw what he was doing in the apartment, he told you what?
I believe it was just that he just needed a place to lay his head for the night.
All right. Thank you. That's all my questions.
Anything else on direct?
No, not at this time.
All right. Anything else?
I'm not questioning, Your Honor.
Okay.
No.
Thank you, officer. Stay safe. Have a good weekend.
you
Happy
too.
Father's Day. All right, go ahead with the argument. Ms. Cole?
Your Honor, I'd first like to ask for a dismissal on lack of venue.
I established it was in Fulton County.
I didn't have it checked off, so I wanted to confirm.
Yeah, I didn't have it checked off either.
I asked him was Peninsula Buckhead in Fulton County.
Can we confirm with the court record?
And I'm court reporter. I got ID post certified. Ms. Jones, can you look back? It would have been at the beginning of the hearing. Ms. Jones?
We've been abandoned.
They can hear me, right? Oh, there she is.
Yeah.
Okay. Does anybody hear anything?
She said
Can-
something. I think she's checking.
Oh, you're checking. Okay.
Hello? Hello?
Yes,
Okay, I'm sorry.
I said, I have ID and post certified, but I don't have that was in Fulton County checked off. Did you say that at near the beginning?
Oh, I'm sorry. Hold on.
I'm sorry, buddy. We're trying to get along here. I think we're gonna be the last ones in the parking lot.
I don't have Fulton County.
I didn't have it either.
As we've had that same issue before,
She did it before.
literally the same issue.
Can you look and see if her question was, is that in Fulton County? Because that's where I missed it last time.
I don't have that question.
I didn't think I checked it off.
I mean, I know I did. We've literally had this issue before, and then I was called later that they did find it.
I mean, I haven't questioned it in any of the other cases because I have it checked off. I heard it.
Yeah.
I just didn't in this case. And
I didn't. I've been paying it.
I understand. I'm just saying we've had the same
Yeah.
issue before, and
We have Ms. Jones, so you don't see her asking it or him saying Fulton County, and it would have been right there in the beginning, especially when she talked
Yeah,
about
I
the
don't,
well, it was a little bit after that
Yeah.
because he talked about Peninsula Buckhead, and then we talked about a little other stuff, and then I said, let's go back to Peninsula Buckhead. Is that in Fulton County?
okay, I must have missed it as well, because I don't have that.
Did you look where, because I know she did go back and he said it was courtesy officer. He had to explain that.
Yes, I have the courtesy, yes, I have that. The courtesy officer, the peninsula at Buckhead, yes.
And then any past that?
I don't know.
May I approach Ms. Cole? You can.
Ms. Jones, can you just look a little bit further out?
Hold on, I'm still checking. Hold on, Judge.
What's that?
Hold on, I'm sorry, hold on.
For the other two cases.
But if you want to continue making arguments.
Yeah, you want to make the other ones?
While she's
Yeah,
looking.
while she's still, well, I don't know, can she look and take it down at the same
I don't
time?
know, Your Honor.
I don't know if she can look and take it down at the same time.
I cannot, but hold on.
All right, so we'll wait for you. Parker, I didn't see you come back. You just snuck in. Thank you, Ms. Watt. I knew I would get them late. I knew I would get them that late. The 16th. 16th. And Ms. Pinto's it would. I knew on Miss Pinto's it would get here late and I wouldn't be able to. You can come on up for Mr. Alexander or whoever. Come on up.
Your Honor, may I speak to my officer while we're waiting?
Yes.
So you have to report to it because even her who did it, she was just in the room. For the online. Who pointed to black and color handgun?
That's all I'm saying, missing from my dad, just the accused. Cause she got his phone to bring his things forward.
Okay, so she's the one who used the gun.
Yeah, and she refused to get a password. I mean, Facebook again.
She was in the-
She was the one who invited him over.
Did she hold a gun to him?
According to him, and they were boyfriend and girlfriend before. Not even.
And she held a gun to him.
Yeah, like he
I'm not sure where she's getting it from.
he had a gas on his eye,
It's Mouton.
but I know he got.
Mouton.
So I didn't talk to him.
Tell him there's one more after this one and then it's him.
I thought there was, aren't there, there's two more, right?
After this one, right? So there's this one, then one more than him.
Right, there's two more.
He's last.
Yeah, I even brought it because he even wrote a statement saying that, and she walked him outside.
I know it wasn't towards the end, Miss Jones, if it was anything. Yeah, I mean, I was listening and checked, they have ID and post.
Yeah, I'm listening. I'm listening back because I don't, I'm at the peninsula part, so.
Because you need some. And told him directly to a room in the back of the apartment. He don't know the apartment because he was just invited over there, so he just knew what because it's 12 apartments right there.
Wasn't her, wasn't it?
According to him, he said she picked. Yes.
You in charge of the battery.
No, if it came from the fight, or if it came from her, he did get into a mutual fight, and I got that video.
Okay.
And he didn't stop.
I know it's wrong.
Yeah. Well, no. Yeah, I have that photo of his eye, and he came the next day, but he came to session. Of course, I was like on one call.
Okay.
I stand corrected. She did ask.
How did, okay,
When she asked again about the peninsula, she said, is that she said, is this in Fulton, here in Fulton County?
okay, stop asking it now. Yeah, see, I've got it, I keep listening for them to say it. All right, next, go ahead. Thank you, Miss Jones, sorry. Go ahead. I missed it again, I don't know, I gotta, all right, go ahead.
Your Honor, we're asking for no probable cause on the burglary in the first degree, as well as the theft by receiving stolen property. On the burglary in the first degree, Your Honor, it requires an unlawful entry with the intent to commit a theft or a felony. And that's a theft or a felony within the residence that was broken into, Your Honor. There is no evidence that was presented today that there was any intent for him to commit a theft or a felony. The intent was to sleep there, and he's charged with criminal trespass appropriately. He was found on a residence where there was no lawful reason for him to be there. However, it is not a burglary, Your Honor. There was no theft or felony that occurred in that vacant apartment, and he did not enter with the intent to commit a theft at that vacant apartment. Therefore, a necessary element of burglary in the first degree was absent in testimony today, and there is no probable cause on that charge. On the theft by receiving stolen property felony, Your Honor, there was no amount for any items given, as well as he named himself as a victim on one of the charges, on one of the packages, but there was no other people listed as victims on that charge. It's definitely not a felony charge. If anything else, there's also no indication that he is the one who committed the theft. The packages were, I believe, in a separate room from him. They were in either a closet or in a separate room. I don't recall the exact testimony, but they were not in the immediate presence of Mr. Shaw. That vacant apartment, he was told it was vacant by somebody else who had presumably been in that apartment before. The item that he recovered in the backpack was not his item. He's not the victim on that case, and there was no named victims for the items that were recovered in Mr. Shaw's, or allegedly recovered in Mr. Shaw's package. No identification was made on that charge. So we would ask for a dismissal of the burglary in the first degree, as well as the theft by receiving stolen property, and we'll submit on the evidence on criminal trespass misdemeanor.
All right, go ahead, Miss Patton.
Okay, Your Honor, on the theft by receiving stolen property, which is a felony, the officer did testify that there was approximately 20 to 50 packages. He described them in size. He stated that there were multiple items there. He even mentioned some of the items of which belonging to himself. His testimony itself lends itself to having the theft by receiving stolen property be in the amount over $1,500, which is, I believe, what is stated on the warrant. Also, the defendant was the only person in the apartment at the time. When asked why he had a woman's swimsuit, in which the bag that the swimsuit was in matched the other bags from the other packages with the same company name. He didn't have an explanation. Probable cause has been met on the theft by receiving stolen property based upon the witness's testimony, and the theft by receiving stolen property is a felony based upon the amount of packages that were there. That in itself lends it to probable cause being found for the burglary in the first degree, as entry was made into the apartment, and the theft by receiving stolen property is the felony that would satisfy that intent. The state would ask that you find probable cause on all three charges as listed for the defendant: burglary in the first degree, theft by receiving stolen property, and criminal trespass.
All right, I'll find probable cause on all three counts. There is a $1,000 split.
Can I just put my objection on the
Sure,
record?
go
as
ahead. Yeah,
there
I'm
is
sorry.
No victim on the theft by receiving stolen property, on any item that was recovered by him, and no amount given. No amount given at all on the theft by receiving stolen property. No approximate amount, no estimate amount. Some packages were opened, some weren't. There's no way of knowing what the amount of that was. At the very least, I think it should be reduced, but since there's no victim, I'm asking for a dismissal, and I want that objection on the record. And Your Honor, the burglary requires a theft to occur in that residence, and that theft is alleged to have occurred outside of that residence at a mailroom by two unnamed individuals. So
Well, I think that, okay, and I think the theft by receiving stolen property would have happened when the stuff was in the apartment that he was in. So it wouldn't have been the theft by taking, would have been the felony in the mailroom, but the theft by receiving would have been being with the items inside the.
yes, Your Honor, which would require you to find probable cause on the theft by receiving, even though there's no victim named and no amount given.
Well, he said it was him and other people in there, and he named the packages: dog
Yeah.
food, women's clothing. We
He
say
said
dog-
some of
and
the
his
packages were big or
for-
small,
yeah.
and about 20 to 50 packages.
And his stuff was a refrigerator.
No, his stuff was plastic containers that
In
go
a fri-
in a
yeah,
refrigerator.
in a
There's no
refrigerator.
amount, no estimate given by him. He said he had no way of knowing how much it would cost. And things like a phone case and dog food, a small bag of dog food is $5.99. A big bag of dog food is $40. There is so much discrepancy here, which is why the law requires there be a named victim and an amount given, at least a reasonable estimate, and he didn't present any reasonable estimate. And that is the basis for the burglary. So I asked for no probable cause on both.
Except he said based on what he said it was over the $1,500 amount based on the packages he saw. It was slim. Is it going to be in a trial? I don't know, but all right, pre-trial.
Okay, he has 15 cycles, appears to be on probation out of DeKalb County for identity fraud, forgery, and 2 counts of financial transaction card theft. That is from August of 2021. It was 4 years probation. He has 2 FTAs, May of 2022, in June of 2017, and 3 probation violations.
It's 1,000 split already. Go ahead, Ms. Cole. Is he going to live in Stone Mountain? Because that's an address on here.
He has a College Park address where he
Okay.
can reside with his friend.
Okay,
And I can update that address if he's released.
okay.
He's 32 years old. He's been in Georgia since 2013. He has his associate's degree from East Georgia College. He was employed at North Italian Restaurant as a cook at the time of arrest and believes that he can come back. Your Honor, I believe he only has misdemeanor convictions and a first offender. He's also a trustee at the jail, and he was a cooperating witness as testified by the officer today. He did not resist. And Your Honor, you heard the facts today, and I think the veracity of the case is important. This is not a slam dunk case. They have very little information on this case, and the criminal trespass may be prosecuted. It's a misdemeanor charge. We're asking that bond be set on the burglary charge in the amount of less than $5,000. We're asking for a $1,000 bond on that charge and a UJR on the theft by receiving based on the evidence that was presented today. At the maximum, if the court is not inclined to grant that request, we would ask for a $5,000 bond so we can go through the bail project.
Go ahead, Ms. Patton.
Your Honor, based upon the fact that this defendant was currently on probation for theft charges, 2 FTAs and 3 probation violations, this defendant serves as a significant likelihood to reoffend. I will consent to the $5,000 good bond as requested by the defense.
All right, no drugs unless prescribed, no alcohol, no weapons. Stay away from 2591 Piedmont Road Northeast, the Peninsula of Buckhead. You're also going to have an ankle monitor paid for by the county with a 24-hour curfew, court, lawyer, medical, employment, as long as you supply the name of your employer, proof of employment schedule, and the exact location you're going to be working, and basic life necessities. 4,000 count one, UJR to the jail, count two, 1,000 on the criminal trespass. 4,000 UJR jail, 1,000 on the criminal trespass. Best of luck to you, sir.
Can you say the bond amounts again?
It's 5, 4 UJR jail and 1.
Thank you.
Raise your right hand. You swear a firm testimony you're about to give is truth, whole truth, nothing but the truth?
I do.
All right, give me Alexis Alexander and state and spell your name for the court reporter, please.
Carlos Leary, CarlosLeary.
Isn't that our interpreter's name?
Yeah. You're not our interpreter, are you?
No, ma'am.
Do you speak Spanish?
Poquito.
I don't at all, so I don't even know why I asked.
Right, see?
Yeah. I don't even know why I asked, like I could understand any of that.
Isn't that Carlos's last name? Oh, okay.
Making me work for it today, Miss Cole. Making me work today.
I have to.
Oh, I appreciate it.
There's
Me
a-
and my eyeball headache.
Thank you all for being very patient. Y'all know I usually don't take this long. April 10th, 60 grand. Ready? Let's go. Alexander?
Yep.
Uh-huh. Well, who's that? Well,
Alexis.
Alexis
Alexander.
Alexander.
Yeah.
Would I be doing my job as defense if I didn't make you research your law as the prosecutor?
I actually really like having debates. That's why I signed up to do it. It doesn't bother me. at
Ms.
all.
Cole, and you both always do a great job.
Appreciate it.
But we do need to get at some point the video footage. I think we have submitted a brief about that too. I think this has been a issue
We have a
repetitively.
briefs pending
Well, and some, it's,
Judge Dallas.
Yeah.
yeah, it's like the difference between, because I was reading that in the wording like that. I think it's like halfway through that opinion that, you know what I'm talking about, right?
It's not, yeah, it's like 2 pages in, but I mean, Mr. McCauley submitted a responsive brief that is a little attacky, but I don't agree with the law that's based on it, but
I have to get,
Judge Drake always upholds the objection.
I'll have to get Dallas to send it to me. Y'all send it to me. Let's see it. All right, this is 23 CP 217550, Alexis Alexander. There's a $60,000 good bond, April 10th. 70 days without indictment, armed robbery, ag assault, possession of a knife or a firearm during the commission of a felony. Go ahead, Ms. Patton.
Hi, Officer Leary.
Hey, how are you?
Am I pronouncing your name right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. How are you?
Great, and yourself?
Living the dream.
Thank you
Where
for being
where are you currently employed?
City of East Point Police Department.
And how long have you been employed there?
I've been employed there almost 9 years.
Oh, congratulations. Were you employed there on or about October 25th, 2022?
Yes, ma'am, I was.
And are you post-certified?
Yes, ma'am, I am.
Were you post-certified on or about October 25th, 2022?
Yes, ma'am, I was.
And how did you come in contact with the defendant?
I received an incident report from Mr. Jalen Wallace where he made a report that he was robbed and he was beat with a gun. And I met him at the police station and he gave me a statement and he stated that he was dating Alexis Alexandra and she called him and said that she needed some money and he agreed to help her out by selling some of his musical equipment. So she sent him a ping of her location and he came to the location, which was 3200 Lakeview Place, building 15. He didn't know the apartment number because it's 12 different apartments and it was his first time going over. And she just told him to go to the back bedroom. He proceeded to go to the back bedroom because he assuming that's where the sale was going to take place for the music equipment. And instead, a guy that he knew as Gene LeBrie came in and they had a mutual fight. After the mutual fight took place, several other males and females come into the room and Miss Alexander takes his phone. A female that was with her gives her a gun and she points the gun at him saying, "Give me your passcode." He initially refused to give her his passcode. She stated again, he gave her the passcode to his phone. She went into his Cash App and she sent $6 to somebody named Nia Mullins.
6 or 60?
No, $6.
6. Okay.
Samir Mullins. Then they allowed him to leave while pointing the gun at him. When I say they, which was Mix Alexander and another unknown male at this time. And they allowed him to leave, and he left and went home and came to the police department on October 26th and filed a police report.
Okay. So let's back up here a little bit. You said that he went to these Lakewood apartments on Lakewood, I believe.
No, Lakeview.
Lakeview, excuse me. You said he went to apartments on Lakeview.
Yes, ma'am.
Is that address in Fulton County?
Yes, ma'am, it is.
Okay. And while he was there, he met up with his girlfriend at the time.
No, she was his ex-girlfriend.
Oh, ex-girlfriend at that time.
Yes, ma'am.
And his ex-girlfriend at that time, what did he say her name was?
Alexis Alexander. She had an AKA of Issy, and that's ISSY.
Izzy?
Yes.
Okay. Did he describe what she looked like to you?
He stated that she was a light-skinned female.
Okay. And he said he arrived to this apartment. Who did he say was there when he got there?
It was Izzy because she met him out in the parking lot, and she walked him up to the apartment.
Okay. And who was in that apartment once they got there?
He initially saw her, and he went to the back room. That's when he seen his friend, and that's when they had a mutual fight. And after the fight, that's when several other people came into the room. There was about 3 to 4 males and females.
Okay. Is this, you said he saw his friend and they had a fight. Did you get the name of that person?
He gave me of Gene Libri, and I actually it turned out to be, his name is Jalen Wilson. That's a friend that he had the mutual fight with.
Wilson.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So once that happened, how did the fight end?
They just initially just stopped fighting each other. It's a video recording of their fight.
Okay. So let's skip ahead a little bit. You stated that the victim told you, Mr. Wallace, he's the victim, not to be confused with Mr. Wilson. The victim, Mr. Wallace, told you that Miss Alexander held a gun on him.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and how did he describe that happened?
He said that after the fight, his phone was on the ground. She reached on the ground and took his phone, and then a friend behind her gave her a handgun, and she pointed at him, asking for his password.
Did he say if he gave her the password?
He said he initially didn't give her the password, and then I think she actually hit him with the gun. And then he gave her the password the second time after he was asked.
It hit him hit him with the gun where?
In his facial area.
Okay. And did she shoot at him?
She did not.
Did he tell you what part of the gun that she hit him with?
He didn't say what part of the gun.
Did he say where on his body? And I might have already asked. Did he say where on his body he was hit?
His facial area.
Okay. Did that leave did he tell you he had any injuries from that?
Yes, he had a laceration over his left eye.
Okay. Were you able to observe that when he came into the precinct?
I did not observe that the day he came in the precinct, but he did give me a photo that he had taken of the laceration.
Okay. Did you submit that photo for evidence?
Yes, ma'am, I do. I have it.
That's great. But you've submitted it for evidence, though?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, excellent. After she hits him in the head with the gun, or excuse me, hits him in the facial area with the handgun, then what happens?
He gave her the pass. She asked for the password, and he gives her the password to his phone.
And then what happens next?
Then she goes into his Cash App account and sends someone $6 that he had in his Cash App account.
Okay. After that happens, then what?
They pointed a gun out while Miss Alexander and an unknown male walk him out to his vehicle where he's made to leave.
Did the unknown male have a firearm as well?
I'm not exactly sure, but I remember him stating that Miss Alexander was pointing the firearm at him.
The whole time?
That's what, according to Mr. Wallace, yes.
Okay. When he is escorted out to his car, did he tell you what happened next?
Yeah, he got in his car and he left.
Okay. And after that, he came to the police precinct, or did he call 911?
He went home and he came to the police precinct the next day.
Okay. Were you the officer who spoke with him at the police precinct?
No, ma'am, I wasn't.
Okay. Which officer did?
I think if I'm looking at this report, it was Corporal Reamer.
Okay. And was his body cam working?
Yes, ma'am, it should.
Was it submitted for evidence?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And how did you get involved with this case?
Mr. Wallace initially started calling up after he filed a police report. And I answered the phone when after he had made the police report. And I had him come in and I started investigating at that point.
Okay. Did you see any video footage regarding this incident?
Yes, ma'am. I see a video footage of the fight. And I also can see the video footage of his phone being taken from off the floor.
Okay. And was that uploaded into evidence?
Yes, ma'am, it was.
Okay. Did you speak to, and I think you said there were about 6 or 7 people in the apartment. Did you speak to any of those people?
I called Mr. Wilson.
Okay.
And he didn't come in and speak with me. That's the only person that I could identify.
Did you ever speak to him at all, or he just didn't show up when he was supposed to?
Well, I spoke to him over the phone. He said he wasn't gonna speak to me over the phone. He'll come into the office, but he never showed.
Okay. Other than that, did he indicate to you anything else?
Well, he called me. Mr. Wallace called me several times after the incident had taken place, stating that he was getting harassing phone calls from Miss Alexandra.
Oh, and what were the contents of those phone calls? Did he tell you?
No, he didn't tell me the actual content of the phone calls.
Okay. Did you arrest Miss Alexander?
I did not.
Who arrested Miss Alexander?
It was Officer Watts.
Okay. And but you did swear out the warrants for her arrest.
Yes, ma'am.
And you've charged Miss Alexander with armed robbery. What was the probable cause basis of that?
For pointing a handgun at Mr. Wilson and demanding his passcode for his phone and sending the $6 cash app to Denaya Mullins.
Okay. You also charged Miss Alexander with aggravated assault. What is the probable cause basis for that?
Because she pointed the handgun at him, and she's still demanding the password to get into the phone.
Okay. You also have her charged with possession of firearm or knife during commission of or attempt to commit certain felonies. What was your probable cause basis for that?
Because she's holding a firearm and she's committing an aggravated assault and armed robbery.
Okay, you stated previously that Miss Alexander, according to Mr. Wallace, Miss Alexander hit him in the head with the firearm.
Yes, ma'am.
And that it left a laceration.
Yes, I didn't know where the laceration came from, the fight or the actual gun itself.
But Mr. Wallace did show you a picture of a laceration on, I think he said his left eye or eyebrow above that. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Did Mr. Wallace indicate to you that him and Miss Alexander had any previous violent history?
No, ma'am.
Did you ever run a GCIC of Miss Alexander?
Yes, ma'am, I did.
Did a picture come up with the GCIC?
On her license, it did.
Okay. And is the picture of that person in the license, does that match the person or any person in the courtroom today?
I need to look at her license and look at her the person in the courtroom today to verify.
Would you be able to recognize the Miss Alexander at all?
Yes, ma'am, I would.
Could you please stand up and take a look in the courtroom and see if she's in the courtroom presently?
Yes, ma'am. She's over to your left, my right, standing or sitting with a blue uniform on and a gray sweater.
Please let the record reflect that the witness has identified the defendant, Miss Alexander.
Record shall reflect.
Did you ever talk to Miss Alexander about this incident?
No, ma'am, I did not.
Do you know if any officer ever talked to her about this incident?
No, ma'am, I do not.
Do you know, you said there was a reporting officer and forgive me, I forgot the name of the person who came out.
His name is Corporal Reamer.
Okay. And I think you did say the body camera was uploaded, but I'm just trying to ensure that.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Have you taken a look at that footage?
I did not take a look at the video footage.
How many times did Mr. Wallace call you after this incident had occurred?
Maybe 10 to 15 times.
How long was each call?
I don't recall the actual time of each call.
But you've spoken to him several times.
Yes, ma'am.
At any time, did his story change?
No, ma'am.
Did he ever offer that anyone else had held a gun to him other than Miss Alexander?
He did state that it was an unknown male, but he didn't know the male name.
Okay. Did he ever state that Miss Alexander didn't hold a gun to him?
No, he never stated that.
Did he ever tell you what the firearm looked like?
No.
Do you know who Nia Mullins is, the person you said was sent a cash app?
No, ma'am, I'm not exactly sure.
Did you ever ask Mr. Wallace about it?
He said he stated that he did not know that person, but he said it was a female.
Okay. When you ran a GCIC of Miss Alexander, did you ever discover if she was a convicted felon or not?
She did not have a record.
Okay. And you never did have any identifying information on the other male there?
No, ma'am.
What about the other people who were at the apartment?
No, ma'am.
Did Mr. Wallace ever indicate to you that he and Miss Alexander were romantically involved again?
No.
Is there anything else that you learned during your investigation that we've not covered here today?
No, ma'am.
Nothing further at this time.
Ms. Cole? We're in the home stretch, Ms. Cole. Thank you both today.
Good afternoon, Officer Leary, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I just need to confirm some details with you. You stated that Mr. Wallace called you and spoke to you, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am. So when someone calls the police department, they ask for a detective, and then that's how I answer the phone when they ask for a detective over the phone.
Okay, so did you take the initial report?
I did not.
Who took the initial report?
Corporal Rima.
Okay, and who filled out the police report?
Corporal Rima filled out the police report.
Have you
but-
seen it?
Yes, ma'am.
Have you reviewed it?
Not today. I didn't review Corporal Rima's statement.
When was the last time you reviewed it?
It's been a minute since I reviewed his statement per se.
Okay, I'd like to show you the police report.
No objection.
Okay.
Do you recognize the document I just handed you?
Yes, ma'am.
Does it look like a true and correct copy of the police report on this case?
Yes.
And it is a statement by, I'm sorry, was it Officer Reamer?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Could you read his statement again for me?
Was there a certain part or you just the whole thing?
I just want him to read it himself
okay.
and then,
Okay.
Did you mean out loud?
no, just to
Oh,
himself,
okay.
just to
Sorry.
refresh his recollection.
Okay.
In your review of that statement, who was alleged to have had possession of the gun?
It said a unknown male with four dreads in his head.
Okay, did it identify him in any other way? The color of the dreadlocks? or no?
Let's hear. I think red was the color.
Okay, and that statement indicates that, does it indicate that anyone else ever had possession of the gun other than that unknown male?
According to Corporal Rim's statement, no.
Okay. And does it indicate that anyone else ever pointed a gun at the complaining witness in the case, Mr. Wallace?
No, according to Corporal Raymond, no.
Okay. And who does the police report indicate took the phone and sent the Cash App?
He said the mail.
The mail. Okay. So in Corporal Reamer's statement, was there any indication whatsoever that Miss Alexander committed an armed robbery
No, ma'am.
or an aggravated assault
Not according to Corporal Reamer.
or possession of a firearm at any point?
Not according to Corporal Reamer.
And he's the one who took the initial statement. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. And I guess for police reports, when is the police report done after an initial incident report?
It's done before the end of the day.
I'm sorry?
It's done before the end of the day.
Okay, so same day. So
Yes.
his recollection would have been pretty current
Yes,
as to his conversation with Mr. Wallace.
yes.
Okay, when did you first speak to Mr. Wallace?
If I'm gonna look at this report,
Sure.
it was November the 7th.
Okay, so a few weeks later.
Yes,
Okay. And when was the last time you spoke to Mr. Wallace?
it maybe been about a month or two ago.
Okay. And so it's your testimony today that Mr. Wallace's statements to you were completely different from those that the statement that Officer Reamer gave.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So I guess my question is, in Mr. Wallace's statements to you, Mr. Wallace indicated that Miss Alexander had possession of the gun.
Yes, ma'am.
Are you sure of that?
I can't be sure. I wasn't there.
Are you sure of that was your conversation with him? That he stated that Miss Alexander had possession of the gun?
Yes, ma'am. That is my correct conversation that I had with him.
Are your phone calls recorded?
No, ma'am, they're not.
Okay. Did you ever have a conversation with Mr. Wallace that was recorded?
No, ma'am. I have a written statement that he wrote out.
Okay. Did you bring that today?
I did.
You did. Okay. When was the last time you reviewed his statement that you have written out?
I did review, but I don't remember everything verbatim what he wrote into the statement.
Do you recall if in that statement he alleges Miss Alexander had the gun or an unknown male with red dreadlocks had the gun?
I think it said Miss Alexander.
You think or you know?
It says Miss Alexander.
Okay. Do you have any explanation for the discrepancy in the testimony today, the police report, and the warrants?
I can't say for what he told Corporal Raymond because I wasn't there and I did not review that body camera as well. But he told me the same statement and he wrote that statement down as well.
Okay. So the initial incident report was done on October 26th, 2022?
Correct.
Okay. And that was the day after the alleged incident. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. Did you ever check his phone to verify that Cash App was made?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And what was the date and time that the Cash App was made?
If I look through my folder, I have that actual Cash App.
Sure.
October 25th at 6:50 p.m.
Okay. And what time is the incident alleged to have occurred?
It occurred before then.
Okay. What time does Corporal Reamer allege that the incident occurred?
He said 7:53 p.m.
Okay. So after the time of the Cash App.
Yes.
Okay. Did you make any attempts to contact Nia Mullins?
Yes, ma'am, I did.
What did you do?
I checked it through TLO that we use that verifies name, and it wasn't coming back as a real name.
Okay. Did you make any contact with anybody behind the Cash App name Pretty Girl 404?
No, ma'am, I did not send anything out to Cash App.
Okay. Do you know why Nia Mullins or how Nia Mullins was identified as the owner of that Cash App account?
It stated on the Cash App.
Okay. Are you familiar with how setting up an account on Cash App works?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Are you aware if there's any type of verification of identification?
I'm not sure.
You stated that you watched a video of an incident. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Was it date stamped?
It doesn't state that the video, that the date that it was stamped up time, it was recorded on.
Okay, so you know that there was an incident that you have on video, but you don't know what date and time that incident occurred.
Correct.
Okay, and in that incident, did you ever see a gun?
I did not.
Okay. And at that incident, essentially it was two people fighting, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, and who were those two people?
Mr. Wilson and Mr. Wallace.
And who threw the first punch?
Mr. Wilson. Correct, Mr. Wallace.
The complaining witness in this case threw
Yes.
the first punch? Okay. And you stated that you saw Miss Alexander pick up a phone. Is that right?
I saw a young lady pick up a phone.
Okay. Do you know who that young lady was?
You can't see her face.
Okay. And do you know whose phone that was?
Mr. Wallace stated that that was his phone.
That was picked up?
Yes.
Okay. Were there a lot of items in that room on the video?
There was a few items in that room.
Okay. And how many people were in that room?
I don't know, but I can hear several different voices on the recording.
Okay. Is the only evidence that you have that any armed robbery occurred the testimony of Mr. Wallace?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and that testimony is different on the day that he gave it to Mr. Corporal Reamer as the day that he gave it to you?
Yes,
Have you talked to Corporal Reamer about this case at all?
I did not.
So was this a case assigned to you as like the detective on the case?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Were you aware that there were discrepancies in his initial statement versus his conversation with you?
Now that I look at the names, I do see the discrepancies.
Okay, but not prior to now. You never asked Mr. Wallace about any discrepancies in his initial report?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Are you aware of how the relationship ended between Mr. Wallace and Miss Alexander?
That was not relevant to the actual incident about how their relationship ended.
So you don't know if it ended on really terrible terms?
I just know he had a new current girlfriend.
Okay. Do you know if he was, so you have no idea what terms he was on with Miss Alexander?
I just know that they weren't dating at the time and he had a new girlfriend already.
Okay. The police report, when someone signs a police report or types up their statement, do they sign their name to it?
No, ma'am.
Okay. What's the procedure for completing a police report?
Well, you get the information from a complainant or a victim or a witness, and you type up the incident report and they submit it for approval from the supervisors.
Okay. And once it's signed off by a supervisor, correct? That's the next step?
Yes,
And then it's submitted as public record, is that correct?
yes,
Okay. And it is believed to be a true and accurate statement of the report that was received on that date.
it's just believed that it'll be a police report, whether it's true or not. We have no way of knowing that if it's true or not.
I'm sorry, a true and accurate representation of the report that was made. Meaning that it's an accurate report of the call that he received from Mr. Wallace.
Yes, ma'am.
And what date were the warrants taken out?
I'm looking at the warrants. It was on November 16th, 2022.
And was that following your first conversation with Mr. Wallace?
No, ma'am.
Was that before you ever spoke to Mr. Wallace?
No, ma'am.
Okay. I don't recall the date that you first spoke to Mr. Wallace. What was that date?
I think there was, I'm looking back at it.
Maybe you should rephrase the question.
It was November the 7th.
November the 7th. Okay. So the warrants were taken out following your conversation with Mr. Wallace. Is that correct?
Following Mr. Wallace making a written statement about the incident that occurred.
Okay, what was the date of his written statement?
November 14th, 2022.
That was approximately 3 weeks after the alleged incident.
Correct.
Did Mr. Wallace give you any other information or testimony to give any kind of weight to his side of the story?
Can you rephrase the question?
Sure. Were there any text messages or phone calls that you saw documented between Mr. Wallace and Miss Alexander on the date of the incident, the 25th of October?
I do recall him showing me the ping location on his phone.
That she had sent him a pinged location?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Was there any conversation within those text messages that you recall from that date?
I don't recall it reviewing any text messages.
So just that Miss Alexander sent her pinged location?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Did you verify the date of that ping?
It had the October 25th on that ping.
Okay. Did you verify that the date of the ping was on October 25th?
Yes, ma'am. He was able to show me that ping location.
And do you have the time of the ping?
I do not.
Okay. All right. Thank you. That's all my questions.
Anything on redirect?
Yes, Your Honor. You stated that Mr. Wallace called you approximately 10 to 15 times regarding this incident.
Yes, yes, ma'am.
Did he ever indicate to you anyone other than the defendant held the gun to him?
No, ma'am.
Nothing further.
All right, any follow-up on that?
There, Your Honor.
All right, thank you, officer. Stay safe.
All right, thank you, Judge.
Go ahead with the argument.
And I think we have a serious question as to probable cause in this case. The police report that the officer testified to today is a statement that was made within 24 hours of the initial incident. It is a statement that identifies a man with red dreadlocks who took a gun, pointed that gun at the complaining witness in the case, took his phone from him, cash-apped money, and hit Mr. Wallace in the face with a gun. There is no indication in that initial report that Miss Alexander was involved, other than that she was present. This was also following a mutual fight between another individual. Miss Alexander's presence at the time of this event does not in any way incriminate her or mean that she was a party to any of these charges. Now, what it sounds like, Your Honor, just looking at the facts as objectively as I can, is that he made an initial report. No one was identified by that report. So he followed up and he called an investigator and he made a different report where somebody could be charged with it because he wanted something to be done. He was upset by an incident. The officer testified that there was a video, that they got into a fight, that Mr. Wallace threw the first punch, but that there was no gun in that video. There's no evidence of any gun other than Mr. Wallace's testimony, which has apparently changed. The initial testimony is that he was that this occurred all by a man with red dreadlocks who has not been identified. Those subsequent statements are in direct conflict with his initial statement and were made about 3 weeks after his initial statement. And I don't think that they can be trusted. And I don't believe that probable cause for these charges has been met on this case against Miss Alexander, who was not accused until after nobody was arrested the first time he made the charges against someone entirely different. So I would ask that these 3 charges be dismissed today.
All right, Ms. Patton?
Yes, Your Honor. The state would ask that you find probable cause in the armed robbery, aggravated assault, possession of a firearm or knife during commission or attempt to commit certain felonies for Miss Alexander. The officer did testify that he spoke to the victim 10 to 15 times, and that on each of those 10 to 15 times, the victim never identified anyone other than Miss Alexander as being the person, who held the gun and did a Cash App transaction. He also indicated that the victim told him that no one other than the defendant hit him in the head with the firearm. As such, the state would find that there is enough to meet probable cause for the armed robbery, ag assault, and possession of a firearm charge.
Not sure how it's gonna do at trial, but it's such a low burden right now. I'll find probable cause, but I'm gonna address bond, because right now it's 60,000. I think pretrial is gonna say she has no record. Pretrial.
No record, first arrest.
Okay, go ahead, Miss Cole.
Your
I
Honor.
will consider the fact, the test that's gonna weigh.
Thank you, Your Honor. Miss Alexander is 22 years old. She's been in Georgia for 4 years. She was working on obtaining her GED at the time of arrest. She does have a stable address. It is her address on file. She lives there with some roommates. Your Honor, this is her first ever arrest. She has no criminal history, no indication that she is the actual perpetrator of this crime. And Your Honor, you said you would take consideration of the facts that are in evidence today, and that this sounds like this was a jaded ex-lover who was upset that nobody was charged, and then decided to identify her 4 weeks later. I'm not sure the reason, Your Honor, but the facts are not good in this case. For the state to proceed with this case, we would ask that bond be set pretty low. I understand that armed robbery and aggravated assault and possession of a firearm are all restricted charges. But given that this is her first arrest with no record, she doesn't have family in the state who would be able to post bond and sign for bond. So we're asking for a $5,000 bond total so that we can go through bail project, as she does have a stable address. We have no indication that she's a risk to reoffend or to not appear in court. She will appear in court to defend herself, as these are false allegations, Your Honor.
Is this family that's here with her?
I am not sure.
Are
Your
you
Honor.
here with Miss Alexander? Yes. Are you family? Oh, just, okay.
And Your Honor, she has served 70 days.
Right, okay. Miss Patton.
Your Honor, based upon the fact that this defendant does not have any criminal history, the state would agree that probably setting a bond is appropriate, as I don't know of any other factors that would support not giving her a bond, but the state would leave it into the court's discretion as to the bond amount.
Okay, now I put he had, Jalen Wilson was never charged as a co-defendant. Okay. And I'm not sure how to spell the Jalen Wilson if it's the same way, but I'll do no drugs, no alcohol, no weapons, no further contact with Jalen Wallace. And Jaylon Wallace, and no further contact with Jalen Wilson. I'm assuming you spelled Jalen the same way. I don't know, but Wilson. Stay away from 3200 Lakewood Place, Building 15 in East Point. Will the bail project do those charges?
I believe so, with it being her first arrest, and being that she has a stable address and she has family and friend contacts that can verify her address. I'm hopeful they will, Your Honor. I know they're restricted charges, so unless you want to do per judge, if you're willing to do per judge, we'll take it.
Yeah. So I'll do, how about, let's see, 1,500, 2,000, 1,500, 2,000. That's
Okay.
5,000.
Okay.
Okay. Best of luck to you, ma'am.
And Your Honor, is that through the bail project for judge?
We'll apply for bail project separately.
They'll apply for the bail project. Thank you, Mr. Douglas. Sorry. Mr. Douglas, I swear it never goes this late. I'm going as quick as I can.
No problem, Your Honor.
Thank you. All right, we can bring out the next person.
Mr. Paul Mutton,
Mountain,
Mountain,
last one.
excuse me.
Your mom, right? Okay. All right, raise your right hand. Officer, you swear affirm testimony about to give is the truth, whole truth, nothing but the truth.
I do.
State your name spelled for the court reporter.
Donnie Smith Jr., DONNIESMITH Jr.
Thank you for being patient.
I apologize. I fell asleep.
No, it's,
I've been at work since Thursday, 3 p.m.
did you know that?
yesterday.
Oh,
I blame you still.
I didn't know that. I
I
wish you
said
would
I
let
still
us.
blame you.
I wish you would let us know. Sorry.
Everybody else does.
So that's because when I got home, I realized that I was called by my major saying, you used to go to be in court.
Oh,
That's
yeah,
what
yeah.
made me come down. And
Okay,
yeah,
so I'm sorry about that.
I'm so sorry you've been here so long.
it is what it is.
Miss Patton will give you a ride home.
Yes, yes, I
You
will.
probably feel like you need it if it's Thursday for sure, right?
I'll give you a piggyback ride myself.
I'm sorry. Thank you all for being so patient. All right, this is 23 CP 217551. Paul, is it Mountain? Is that how you pronounce it? Mouton. Okay, sorry about that. Mouton.
Okay.
All right, 70 days without indictment. We got theft by receiving stolen property and possession of firearm by a convicted felon. Go ahead, Miss Patton.
Hi, Officer Smith.
Good
How
day.
are you?
I'm well.
Okay, where are you currently employed?
With the City of College Park, Georgia Police Department.
And how long have you been employed there?
I've been here about 13 years now.
Okay. Were you employed there on or about April 8th, 2023?
I was.
And are you post-certified?
I am.
And were you post-certified on or about April 8th, 2023?
I was.
And how did you come in contact with the defendant?
While working an improved extra job at Heroes Haven, located at 4855, I was within the parking lot of the facility, patrolling in the area. I overheard shots come from behind me on the backside. As I heard the shots, while in my patrol vehicle, I drove around the corner and I observed 3 males running across the street. Upon seeing the males run across the street, I drove across the street with my lights on, and the males start they was zigzagging. The hotel is located across the street, which is the Howard Johnson Hotel. They zigzagged towards the Howard Johnson Hotel, then they doubled back towards, it's like a crease of the side of the hotel to the left. Adjacent to that is the Waffle House. At that instance, I observed Mr. Mouton and another subject, 2 other subjects, but specifically, I had my eyes on Mr. Mouton at the time, and the subject who was wearing a white and red, white shirt and red joggers. After coming across the street and they were zigzagging, I'm driving kind of like trying to go back and forth with them because it's like a cul-de-sac area by the hotel where I was able to like go around and get around and still like follow the subjects while they were running. I kind of cornered Mr. Mouton with my patrol vehicle and jumped out at gunpoint and ordered him down. As I came up to him and ordered him down, I placed him in cuffs, and underneath him was a handgun. I took him back to my patrol vehicle, and then I got the handgun. Then from that area where the subject with the red pants and the white t-shirt, there was another gun located in the crease where he had ran. We were unable to locate him, but we were unable to locate the third subject who had cut himself up pretty bad because there was like wooded like area within the crease where he had ran to. That subject was later charged with simple possession of marijuana city ordinance. But when I ran the handgun in which was in Mr. Mouton's possession and came back showing stolen out of DeKalb County, I was able to obtain a report from DeKalb County showing that the victim identified as Ms.
Excuse me 1 second. Excuse me 1 second, Your Honor. I'm gonna approach you if you don't mind. I'm sorry, Your Honor. Go ahead, Officer Smith.
I was able to obtain a police report from DeKalb County in reference to Tierra Backus being the victim of a stolen handgun that was stolen from her vehicle. That handgun was confirmed, in which I was able to charge Mr. Mouton with theft by receiving stolen property, and also by running his criminal history. Also, I discovered that he also was a convicted felon. I also was familiar with Mr. Mouton, being that I had just arrested him 4 months prior for similar charges as such.
Okay. All right. So let's go back. So you said that you were at your extra job at Heroes Haven Restaurant, and that you heard gunshots at a gas station, and then you saw males running towards a hotel. I believe you called it a Howard Johnson,
which was located across the street from the establishment and the gas station. Yes.
For all three of those locations in Fulton County.
Yes.
Okay. And when you heard gunshots, how many gunshots did you hear?
I think it was like 2 or 3. I'm not exactly sure, but they was loud.
Did you ever see anyone who had been injured?
Never found anyone who was injured. That's why I was unable to actually charge anybody with any type of felonious aggravated assault or charges or anything. Upon being questioned, I asked Mr. What were they shooting at, and he advised that it was his friend who was actually shooting, and which was possibly the other handgun that I found, because it didn't appear that that the handgun that Mr. Mouton had been fired at all.
How do you know when a handgun's been fired?
I mean, I didn't see any like residue coming from the gun, and the gun still seemed like it had been loaded. It didn't feel like hot.
Okay.
Like it just had been fired, because I was able to get in contact with them like very like swiftly after hearing the gunshot. So the gun wasn't hot. The barrel of the gun wasn't hot, opposed to the other gun. It was kind of warm.
Okay. So I know you said you've been working for 13 years. And how many firearms would you say you interacted with? And I know it's going to have to be an approximate number. Over 50?
Over 50.
Over 100?
I'd say about 100, but could be possibly more, but I'd say at least about 100.
Okay. So through your training and experience, you understand and have been taught what a handgun feels like when it's recently fired.
Correct.
And that's when you discussed that handgun that you found on Mr. Mouton was cool to the touch. That's how you were able to do that. It had not been fired.
Correct.
Okay. And you said that you had followed these males, and you said it was kind of like a cul-de-sac and you were kind of zigzagging through. Did you ever lose visual of the males?
I only lost visual after I had actually cornered Mr. Mouton, and the other subject was able to escape, evade capture by going through it's like a it's not a breezeway. It's like a very narrow area, like a mid area corner. I still don't know how they got through there, because I was trying to scale the wall and figure out how they even got through.
Did you get injured trying to scale the wall? And
I mean, I'm 6'5", so I can kind of climb up somewhere, but I don't know how they got through, because at the end of it, it was like fenced off in a high area. So I believe the gentleman possibly doubled back behind, because it's another building behind there. But I was so focused on the subject that I had at that present time. And then, like I said, I discovered the gun that he had just dropped that was underneath when I had initially just placed him in custody.
Okay. So did any other officer assist you with this?
Yes. Well, initially not taking Mr. Mouton in custody, but other officers had came from the areas in where we were, where I was, Officer Alicia Cross and Officer Alicia Cross, who was off duty. Officer Sinius, who was on duty, he came to assist with trying to locate the additional subjects that were unable to be located.
Okay. Sergeant Smith, did you arrest Mr. Mouton?
I did.
Okay. And did you search him incident to that arrest?
I did.
And what was located, if anything?
I'm looking at my laptop at my.
Please let the court know what exactly you're looking at.
I'm looking at my laptop where I actually
Is it an incident report? Is it
an
a,
incident report.
okay.
Nothing was located on him after, like I said, after I grabbed him and took him in custody and escorted him back to my car from where he was. Cause like I said, I kind of cornered him right where I had got him off the ground. The gun was just the gun, cause I heard something drop anyway and I got him. And then that's when I saw the gun and I was like, hey, he just dropped his gun. He dropped his gun. And then, like I said, the other gentleman who had ran in the crease, that was also a gun that was located in the area, and both of the guns came back as being stolen.
Okay. So you stated that you had cornered two individuals.
One
Individual, just
which
Mr.
was
Mouton.
Mr. Mouton, correct.
And so when you heard something drop, you said that was a firearm.
Correct.
Did you identify, well, you did say you identified that firearm was stolen out of
Correct.
DeKalb County.
Correct.
Okay. And did you ask Mr. Mouton about that gun?
I didn't inquire. I don't think I inquired about the gun, asked him about the gun.
The only person though who was around Mr. Mouton, there was no one? It was just
No
him?
one else. No.
Okay.
In the area exactly where he was the one where that gun was, right? Where that gun was. The other gentleman, where he fled through the crack, that's where that other gun was located.
Okay, understood. Did you ever do a GCIC search of Mr. Mouton?
Yes.
And did you discover anything regarding Mr. Mouton?
I apologize. Mr. Mouton had several outstanding warrants from several jurisdictions.
Any felony convictions?
He did have felony convictions, but I'm not.
If you need to take a look at your affidavit for arrest, you can just refresh your memory and then testify.
Oh, I apologize. He had a conviction for burglary in Clayton County Superior Court, 10/27/2011. Case number 11, Charlie Raymond, 02465.
Okay, anything else?
He also had a conviction in Henry County Superior Court for theft by receiving, aggravated assault, and possession of a firearm by convicted felony. Case number 15, Charlie Raymond, 00690. And that conviction was on 11/16/2015.
Did you ever ask Mr. Mouton about his convictions?
I didn't, because after I had already obtained that information, I had no need to question him about anything.
Was you, you stated that you were at your approved job, and forgive me for not knowing, do you guys wear body cams if?
Yes, all my actions were caught on body camera, and it's downloaded and saved for evidence.
Okay. Were you in an actual marked patrol vehicle?
It's an actual marked patrol vehicle.
Was your dash cam on?
No, dash cam was on, but my body cam was on from the beginning of the situation to the end.
Okay. When you looked up a GCIC of Mr. Mouton, did a picture come up? A driver's license picture?
Yes, but like I said, I was already familiar with him because I had arrested him for a few months prior. So that at that point, I didn't need any other identification from anyone else because I was familiar with him.
Okay. And is the person you arrested, are they presently in the courtroom?
Yes.
And feel free to stand up. Could you identify whether they are on my left or on my right and identify them with an article of clothing?
They're on your left, subject wearing a blue Fulton County inmate uniform with a white sleeve shirt underneath.
Okay, let the record reflect that the witness has identified the defendant, Mr. Paul Hamilton Mouton.
Record shall so reflect.
Okay. Was there any other witnesses to this incident? I know you said you heard it. And you said other officers were present, but any civilian witnesses?
I didn't get anyone because I was looking around to try to see was anyone hurt from after hearing the shots, and
Mhm.
there was no. It's like everybody like disappeared.
Okay. That tends to happen when shots are fired. Did you speak to any of the officers regarding the incident?
No, because I mean, honestly, when some of this nature, everybody's trying to figure out who's going to be the primary officer who's going to be dealing with the case. And due to me being off duty, the on duty shift, I advised him, since I was the one who actually encountered the subject, that I would be taking the case.
Okay. And you've charged Mr. Mouton with theft by receiving stolen property, which is a felony. What was your probable cause basis for that?
By it being a handgun and a stolen handgun, and I was able to obtain an actual police report in reference to how the handgun was actually stolen, which was stolen from the vehicle.
The handgun was stolen from the vehicle.
The handgun was stolen from.
Was there anyone ever arrested for the entering of the vehicle and stealing the gun?
Not that I know of from reading the report. The victim reported her gun stolen, and the gun was placed on the national database as being stolen.
Did Mr. Mouton ever indicate to you where he had obtained that handgun?
No.
Did he indicate to you that he had purchased that handgun?
No, I never asked.
Okay. Mr. Mouton is also charged with possession of a firearm by convicted felon. And what was the probable cause basis for that charge?
From obtaining his criminal history, I was able to establish that he was a convicted felon by obtaining his criminal history.
Okay. How long prior to this incident, so how long before had that firearm been stolen?
That I'm not aware of. I don't have that report attached at this particular report attached with that. I'm not sure.
Do you know who the second male was?
The second male. Was a Jarvis Cofield.
Did you ever ask Mr. Mouton how he knew him?
I never asked how they was associated with one another.
And you said there was another gun found. You said that was found in the crease where the other suspect had ran. Did Mr. Mouton ever indicate that he knew there was a second firearm anywhere?
No.
Did Mr. Mouton talk to you at all about this incident?
Stated that he wasn't the one who was shooting. And that's basically that I can. Did
he ever admit to having a firearm?
I mean, he didn't have to admit one way or the other because I saw him. I mean, actually, where I had just put him in handcuffs, and the handgun was just right there after I placed him in cuffs.
Do you have a gun on you?
I do.
Is it in a holster?
It is.
Does it fall out typically?
No.
And tell the court a little bit about how your gun is holstered to you.
Matter of fact, now that I think about it, Mr. Mouton's fell. He slipped and fell once I kind of cornered him, and he slipped and fell, and that's how I got out the car and ordered him at gunpoint, and that's how I was able to handcuff him and place him in custody.
So you had your gun in your hands
when I got out my vehicle, but prior to that, he slipped and fell as I'm coming towards him. I guess if he believes I was going to hit him or not, but I was right in front of him, and he's still trying to figure out which way he was going to be running. As that way it appeared to me, he slipped and fell.
Okay, and that's when the gun hit the ground.
Possibly fell out at that time.
But you knew where your gun was the whole time.
Whole time.
Okay. Is there anything else you learned from this investigation or during your subsequent investigation that we've not covered here today?
No, ma'am.
Nothing further at this time.
Ms. Cole?
Good afternoon, officer.
Afternoon.
Do you have a copy of your warrant for possession of a firearm in front of you?
I do.
Okay. Could you review under the probable cause, the third paragraph? Could you read that to yourself, sir?
Yes.
Okay, so just gonna go through it just a little bit. You arrested Mr. Mouton, correct? You handcuffed him and then escorted him back to your patrol vehicle.
Which was possibly from where I am to where you are now.
Okay, so you walked a distance
Yes.
and then put him in your patrol vehicle.
Correct.
Well, searched him and then put him in your patrol vehicle. And then went back to search the area where Mr. Mouton had fallen. Is that correct?
Where, yes, yes.
Okay, so you didn't just arrest Mr. Mouton and there was a gun underneath him.
Well, right where you and I are located, once I put him in the car, when I came back, just where I had picked him off the ground from, the gun was located as if it was underneath him.
Okay, but when you arrested Mr. Mouton, there was not just a gun laying underneath him that you saw right then. You arrested him, took him to your patrol vehicle, and then went back and searched the general area. Is that correct?
Well, I didn't have to search when I took him to the car and I looked back and his gun is laying on the ground from where we were.
Okay, so could you see the gun from your patrol vehicle? Did you see it there or did you walk back over and start looking around in the area?
Like I stated, where I was, when I about corralled him and where he had about ran, I got him and put him in the car. After I came, I looked down, I saw the gun right where I had just got him off the ground from.
Okay, I'm just trying to make sure that I understand the facts. You took him to the patrol vehicle and then you walked back over to where you had arrested him, and that's when you saw the gun.
Correct.
You did not see the gun at any point before that time.
No.
Thank you. The chase of the three individuals, were they all running around in that area?
Yes.
Okay, and you at some point lost sight of them in that general area, and then two of them went different places and you recovered Mr. Mouton.
I never actually lost sight of them. I had eyes on, because they was zigzagging. Like I said, about time when he slipped and fell and got cornered, he put his hands up and gave up.
Right.
That's when the other gentleman, I lost sight of them at that time.
Okay, you at one point were giving testimony about some kind of barrier that you had to come over and you were not sure how they got through before you recovered anyone. And you said you lost sight of them at that time.
No, ma'am. That's
Okay,
not what I said.
can you clarify for me then? Because I just didn't understand.
I said where the area where they ran to, I was trying to figure where the other guys possibly could have ran. I was, after the fact, and after Mr. Mouton was already placed in the car and everything, he was in custody. It was a barrier through down further, and I was trying to establish how they possibly could have gotten over, but never at any time during my encounter with him there was any restriction barrier. It restricted me from coming in contact with him initially. So I never lost sight of him on the initial never lost sight of him.
Okay.
Until I never lost sight of him, but I lost sight of the other gentleman while dealing with him.
Okay, I understand now. I'm apologizing. I just misheard the story and want to make sure that I have the facts straight. When the three men were running in one direction, how far apart were they from each other?
It was like jumbled up. But like I said,
Okay.
the guy, because I was specifically looking at, I was looking at him, and then I was specifically looking at the guy who had the red pants and the red shirt. The other great guy, I definitely lost sight of him, like I stated. But Mr. Mouton and the gentleman with the red pants, with the red joggers, like some Adidas pants with the white stripes and white t-shirt, I had my eyes on both of them.
Okay, and they were running, and all three of them for a period of time were running all right next to each other.
Sort of, kind of.
Okay, and then one broke off, and then one went this direction, and Mr. Mouton fell.
Correct.
Okay. Did you run fingerprints on the gun?
No,
When you picked up the gun, were you wearing gloves?
no,
Okay. Was the gun placed in an evidence baggie?
yes,
Okay. But this was after you handled it.
yes,
Okay. Did anyone else handle the gun before it was placed into evidence?
just me.
Just you. Did you ask Mr. Mouton anything about the gun? About how he received the gun?
No,
Okay. And in fact, Mr. Mouton never stated that was his gun. Is that correct?
whether he stated, yeah, no,
He never took ownership of it to you. Okay. You stated that gun had not recently been fired. Is that correct?
it didn't appear that it had been fired to me, no.
Okay. Is it common when there's gunshots in an area for people to flee?
I mean, I would think, but I've also seen people around when gunshots and I'd be wondering why they didn't flee.
Okay. But it's fairly common for if there's gunshots in the area for people in the proximity to leave the area quickly.
Correct.
Okay. This area, was it a field? I'm trying to visualize it. It was
It's like a parking lot.
like a parking lot.
The rest, if this is a hotel, this is an open lot,
Mhm.
that is a Waffle House.
Okay.
This is the crease, if this little between, it's like a little crack right here.
Okay.
That's just the crease where the subjects fled in. In the area where we were, it was like like a split between that parking lot and the gas and the parking lot in the hotel.
Okay.
That's where he fell after he crossed over the from the divider, the little grassy area that divided from the hotel and the parking lot. That's why I was able to take him into custody from.
Okay. And it was grass where he fell?
No, he fell on the cement. in
On the
parking
cement.
lot. Yes.
Okay. And this was in the middle of the night, right? Between 1 and 2:30 a.m.?
A lit area. As
It's a
well.
lit area.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you. That's all my questions.
Anything else on direct?
Nothing further at this time, Your Honor.
All right, you
Thank
need
you.
anything else, Ms. Cole, from this officer?
No, Your Honor.
All right, stay safe, officer. Be careful getting home. Thank you. Have a good and happy Father's Day to you.
No kids.
Okay, well, then to your dad. Okay. All right, go ahead with the argument. Ms. Cole?
Your Honor, we would ask for dismissal of both charges. At this point in time, the testimony that was presented today, Mr. Mouton was arrested, was brought back to the patrol vehicle. Well, let me preface, Your Honor. This incident occurred in a well-lit parking lot with gravel basis. No grass, nothing to conceal it, no dark corners. Mr. Mouton was arrested. He was placed in handcuffs. He was lifted off the ground because he had fallen, and he was placed in a patrol vehicle. At that point, the officer walked back to an area. This area is where it's the general area where Mr. Mouton was arrested, but the officer testified it's also the area that the other two men ran through. At that point in time, for the very first time, he saw a gun. Now, this a little bit differed from the officer's original testimony, which is that he placed Mr. Mouton in handcuffs, lifted him up, and there was a gun laying right underneath him. That's not what happened today, Your Honor. This is an area that was well lit, nothing to conceal it. He did not see a gun when he arrested Mr. Mouton. He did not see it until he went back over to that area, and that was the same area that two other men had gone through. He then picked up the gun with his own hands, which destroyed any evidence of any fingerprints or anything that could link or not link my client to the gun, and then placed the gun into evidence. I think that this is on body camera footage, but we don't have that body cam. There's no way for us to know how big that vicinity, that area was where Mr. Mouton fell and how far apart the gun was. I think there will be conflicting testimony in a trial about the distance between the two. And again, nothing else other than that testimony to link Mr. Mouton to that gun. So we would argue no probable cause.
All right, go ahead, Ms. Patton.
Yes, Your Honor. The state would ask that you do find probable cause. The officer testified several different times that he saw the gun exactly where Mr. Mouton was fell. He stated at one point that he was kind of trying to describe it, that he was moving around and he slipped. He stated several times that the only person who was in the parking lot was him and Mr. Mouton at that time. That's enough to satisfy the probable cause element. The gun was stolen. The witness also testified that Mr. Mouton is a convicted felon. I believe he gave both case numbers out for 2011 and 2015. The probable cause element has been satisfied, and the state would ask that the court find as such for both the theft by receiving stolen property, which is a felony, of the firearm, and the possession of firearm by convicted felon, as Mr. Mouton is a convicted felon.
All right, I'll find probable cause on both. Go ahead. It's no bond as of April 10th. Pre-trial.
No bond?
Right. It was
18 cycles, 2011 conviction for burglary, 2015 conviction for theft by receiving stolen property, aggravated assault, and possession of a firearm by convicted felon, a 2017 conviction for possession of a firearm by convicted felon, and then a total of 9 probation violations.
Thank you, Ms. Roberts. Was that you screaming or your co-counsel?
My co-counsel.
Okay, go ahead, Ms. Cole.
Honor, Mr. Mouton is 31 years old. He's been in Georgia since he was a child. He has a stable address. That address is in College Park, and he lives there with his child's mother and his 2-year-old child. At the time of arrest, he was employed at Frito-Lay and believes that he can get that job back. He is a high school graduate. He graduated in 2008 here in the state of Georgia. His mother is here as well to be here as a support for him. He does have ties to the community. Your Honor, we did hear probation violations. I will just put that does include technicals as well. And sometimes those are failure to be able to pay probation dues. So we don't know the nature of those probation violations, but he doesn't have any failure to appears. His last conviction was 6 years ago, and that's the conviction, not the incident date. So we're looking at more than 6 years, Your Honor, since he's committed a crime that he's been convicted of. We would ask that the court set bond in this case. He has been in custody for 70 days. He's not on the bond calendar, so if the court doesn't set court today, he's not going to have a hearing for, it's been about sometimes 4 to 5 weeks after the 90 days before they get a bond hearing. So I am requesting that the court set bond. I have spoken to the family, and we are asking for on the possession of a firearm by a convicted felon, a $10,000 bond. On the theft by receiving stolen property, a $5,000 bond. He does have a hold in Henry County, so he won't be released directly. And I ask the court take that into account. This will allow him to go handle his other matters before actually being released, Your Honor. But based on the history and based on his lack of failure to appear, his ties to the community, his family here to support him, we would ask that the court set a $15,000 bond.
Go ahead, Ms. Patton.
Yes, Your Honor. Based upon the fact that this defendant has a 2017 conviction for possession by a firearm by a convicted felon, initially the state was going to request no bond. However, I did hear what Ms. Cole stated, and that he does not have a first appearance or bond set up.
Right. He doesn't have a date for an Orca night court.
Also, the state will take notice of the fact that the defendant's family is present, and I'm always appreciative of a family showing up. I would just defer to your court's discretion on the bond amount. We also would ask that the conditions of no weapons while out on bond, which he knows he's not supposed to have anyway, an ankle monitor with 24-hour curfew, and a release to that hold in Henry County.
48 hours.
Within 48 hours, correct.
All right, no drugs unless prescribed, no alcohol, no weapons. Stay away from 4875 Old National Highway and 4855 Old National Highway. That's the Howard Johnson's. And no further contact with Tierra, Tiera, last name Baccus. You're going to have an ankle monitor paid for by the county with a 24-hour curfew. Court, lawyer, medical, employment, as long as you supply the name of your employer, proof of employment schedule, and the exact location you've been working. And also basic life necessities. So you have a child. If you have to take the child somewhere, you can do that. You just have to don't call Ms. Cole. Sorry, email Ms. Cole. She doesn't want that many phone calls. Email her, hey, I have to take my child to the doctor. And also let the ankle monitoring company know. 5,000 count 1, 10,000 count 2. You have 48 hours to have that ankle monitor placed on your ankle, okay? Once you get released from